It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell are here. They're both home for the holidays, and with lots to talk about. Paul is a little upset about the world worrying about Microsoft AI. He's going to correct a misapprehension that even Steve Gibson got wrong yesterday. We'll also talk about unreliability problems in 24H2. What a shock. And Flight Simulator 2024 is a cluster. We'll let you finish the sentence next on Windows Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell, episode 909, recorded Wednesday, November 27th, 2024. Shaved, toasted, and charred. It's time for Windows Weekly, the show we gather together and worship at the feet of Microsoft.
Well,
No.
Let me hold it.
No. That's Paul Thurrott. He is more of a ranter than a worshiper.
We're like that general that used to appear on TV during the first Iraq War, and he's like, "Everything's fine. We're doing great. We're beating back the American imperialists."
General Westmoreland? Was that Westmoreland?
No, the guy from Iraq. Remember that crazy guy?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Stuff was blowing up behind him. He's like, "Everything's fine."
Baghdad Billy or whatever.
Yeah. Baghdad Bob. Yeah.
Baghdad Bob.
I don't think his name was Bob.
Also with us, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Richard Campbell. He is in his beautiful estate in Lower Madeira Park. Oh, look at the view.
Glassy
Holy
calm
cow.
today. Glassy calm.
That is gorgeous. That's what's nice about a heavy rain is after. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, the ocean can be mean, but not today.
She's a cruel mistress.
Yeah, she's
Richard is from runnersradio.com. He does that and .NET Rocks with Carl Franklin. He joins us every Wednesday, as does Paul, because it's time for the Winners and Dozers Report.
Indeed.
But I'm going to ask you about a little rant that Mr. Stephen Gibson
Oh, good. Okay.
did yesterday, but I'll wait till we get to...
Now I want to guess what it was about.
What do you think it was about?
It's going to be about
Was it about Windows as an open platform?
That was
No.
a good one. That
Was it
was
about
about-
Windows resiliency?
No.
Was it about recall and click to do?
It was close. It was about the connected
Oh, the experience? Oh, yeah.
experience.
Right.
And I want to get some more. When we get to that, just say, what did Steve think of that? And I'll let you know.
Okay. Yep. Sure.
Because I want to get your input on it. Because Steve was irate, but I'm not sure
Irate?
he was.
I don't think he understood the
That's what I think. But
I don't think he understood what was really happening, which is kind of the problem there. But okay, we'll get to it.
Well, that's what I want to talk about. But meanwhile,
We can get to it right now. Do you want to talk about it right now?
well, so the idea is Microsoft 365 has a new kind of agreement.
It's not really new, but
It's not new.
Yeah.
Okay, but let me pull up his show notes because that's probably the best thing to do here, and I can.
Well, I mean, actually, yes, right. To find out what he said, there were, this ties right into my tip for 2 hours from now, which is about as vague as it gets, but it
He
basically
called it
amounts.
Disconnected experiences. Which gives you some idea of where he's going. Microsoft silently enabled AI training for Word and Excel.
Did not. That didn't happen.
Yeah, he gave the impression, I think he got the impression that they were going to use your content for training their LLMs. And
That's
I had to say to him, I don't think that's what they're doing.
They're not.
Okay.
That's it. And look, just as a general statement, you've heard me say this before, there's so much to complain about with Microsoft. We don't have to make anything up. There's so much to complain about.
He said in Microsoft's documentation,
right.
It says connected experiences that analyze your content. Connected experiences that analyze your content are experiences that use your Office content to provide you with design recommendations, editing suggestions, data insights, and similar features.
Yep. It does say that. That's true. That's accurate.
Yeah. Well,
you know what it doesn't say? Use it to train AI. Because it doesn't do that.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It just doesn't.
It also says that it will delete stuff for the most part, Most connected experiences don't retain your content after performing their function to help you accomplish a task. And this is, I think, another thing that kind of tickled his thing.
Sure. Yeah, but
there are a few exceptions. In those cases, Microsoft retains the content for as long as your account exists, and it's used to support, personalize, or improve that connected experience.
Yep, this is what Microsoft has been doing for probably 20 years. No, I mean it.
I said any spell checker has to do this. Any grammar checker has to do this.
This is nothing to do. Here's the problem. Like you have this flow chart, and the flow chart, the first question says, is Microsoft using your data to train its AI? Yes or no? And if you choose yes, there's this whole litany of problems that comes down.
Right.
And what we've done
businesses don't want that.
No one wants it, but that's not really the point. I mean, no one wants it, but that's not the point. But there is no path where we go down that direction. So the complaints that pile on top of that are meaningless. They're not doing it. So, look, I wrote about it. I mean, and by the way, for whatever it's worth, the way I wrote this was not Microsoft is not training Copilot AI on your data. It's Microsoft says it is not training Copilot AI on your data. That's how I phrased it. Now,
because how would we know?
I mean, right. So, but the problem is, people kind of lose their minds. Like if you are not familiar with Microsoft 365 and you hear this phrase, Microsoft Connected Experiences, and like Leo just said, there's this new thing and it's like, what? It's not new. This is not new. I don't know what triggered this exactly. I feel like every time there's like a spell check change to a privacy agreement, they have to just retell users, hey, just this is what's happening. But I think what happened was people did not look up. Well, Leo just read a part of the Microsoft Learn page that describes Microsoft's connected experiences for Microsoft 365.
Right.
It has absolutely nothing to do with training AI. It has everything to do with online features like document collaboration, spell check, and spells or grammar style type stuff.
Preferences stuff.
Preference, like personalization.
These are the folks you're most likely to collaborate with. These are the words that you think are words.
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
So this episode required me to do things I don't like to do, like go read Microsoft's privacy statement, go read Microsoft's services agreement. Just because you never know, they might have slipped something in there. They're pretty evil.
Yeah,
but it's pretty straightforward. And the way it plays out is, if you're a business, nothing to worry about. End of discussion. We're done. If you're a consumer, Microsoft does use the interactions you have with Copilot in Bing, in MSN, in the Copilot app in Windows 11, and oddly, in the interactions you have with advertising. In other words, if you click on something for like a preferences-based thing,
right?
They do actually train its AI on that. However, you can opt out of it if you want to. It's actually a pretty straightforward process. If you pay for Microsoft Copilot, I always get the name of it, Pro, which is the consumer version of Microsoft 365 Copilot, they do not train anything that you do. They leave you alone. So that's the end of that's it. That's the whole story. So again, not to ruin my tip for later in the show, but basically what this reminds me of is sometime about a month ago, Chris Titus is on YouTube with probably 1 million views by this point. Microsoft is secretly installing and enabling recall on everyone's computers. No, they are not. No, they were not. No, they will not. I will not do that on a train. I will not do it on a plane. I will not do it anywhere. It's fake. It's not real. But people, we live in this world where people who don't know anything about anything have like super strong opinions about those things. And they see something, they see some phrase like connect. I'm not saying that this is what Steve did. I think Steve is reading other people who have complained about it.
That's probably what's happening.
There's some Linux site that went to town on this, and literally it was like, why not just call it what it is, AI training? Why use other words? This is unethical from $1 trillion corporation. How is this even legal? It's like, I can't debate that. It's just that they're not doing it. Like you're going nuts on something that is not a thing. And so like I said, there's so much real badness in the world. We should focus on the real. We don't have to make stuff up.
Well, and I also feel like our job is not to spread heat, but to spread light. And
There you go. That's
That's a good one. I like
and
that.
it's tempting because, of course, heat generates hits.
Yeah.
And I'm
yes.
arranging
Heat
us.
is profitable.
Heat is profitable. And so, especially on YouTube, it's one of the reasons I'm not thrilled about the rise of the YouTube influencer because they're strongly incented to generate heat.
Oh, it's
that's
about
how you make
presentation
money.
and
And we don't care about our audience. I mean, we don't care about our
Dog,
audience
did you know what
size. We care about
Microsoft
our
is
audience.
screwing you over this week? It's like, dude, relax.
We care more about our audience than whether we're going to get the hits and the links.
Here's what I
and
care
views.
about. I care when I sign into Windows and all of a sudden OneDrive is automatically backing up these folders. I explicitly
was very
told it
annoying.
not to back up many times.
Yeah.
So like that to me is malicious,
Yes.
anti-consumer,
And we
and
walked through
certification.
that. Yes.
So this whole scrapping of all my preferences because you updated the OS, not acceptable.
I've seen that happen on other operating systems.
Well,
That
it happens
seems
to
be
my,
very common.
I update my,
iPhone,
I update Android, and
Android.
boom, all the notifications are reset.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really want to say that what we as a network and what we as individuals really strive to do is to spread light, not heat. Because it's complicated enough for everybody. Let's figure it out.
I think of it as we don't always get there, but the goal is to be helpful, not to get in your way. And when you lie to people or you just misunderstand something and then you waste their time by going on this crazy rant and you publish it wherever you publish it and people read it and they spread it, and that's how we get to where our country is right now. So, you could be part of the problem, or you could just think for yourself, think clearly. And my reaction to this was,
Steve, I don't think it was malicious.
No.
He wasn't trying to get hits. He's not that guy.
I know. I'm sorry. I want to be super clear about that.
He didn't understand. And I said to him on the show, I said, I don't think it's doing that. So let's check with Paul and Richard and find out tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm not criticizing him. I'm sorry. Some of this stuff too is just a fog of war type of thing. So your show happens when it happens. That show, and we're still in the early days of what's happening here. Microsoft has been very clear in this case. Like, excuse me, this is not what's happening.
They have been very clear because of their relationship with OpenAI and the general concern. And by the way, OpenAI seems to be a little bit more likely to ingest your stuff.
A little more likely? Ask the New York Times how likely they are.
I think Microsoft has to bend over backwards to be clear.
Yep.
And they are. They say it explicitly. We do not collect customer data to train our LLMs, period.
Yep. Yeah.
And they have to say that because businesses are very skittish about business data getting
actually
ingested.
that's a good point. And the reason I took it upon myself to go back and reread the relevant sections of their service agreement and privacy statement was businesses, yes, but what about consumers? Like
consumers don't like
I
it
am
either.
at least that's the point. So I got to be honest, like I quoted from it, I think in my story, but there's a passage there where I was like, I had to reread it 3 times. Like, hold on, I was like, what are you saying here? It was the bit about Copilot Pro, but eventually, I kind of parsed it and I was like, no. Okay, they do not. They are not. The only instance in which Microsoft trains LLMs on customer data is the thing I said before, which is consumers only, and it's Bing, MSN, Copilot app, and advertising. It's not while you're using Microsoft. So to get into Microsoft Word with Copilot, you have to pay for it. And once you pay for it, they're not training their LLMs on you. So it's not happening.
And to be clear, even if you don't pay for it, they are not training their LLMs on you.
They're not reading OneDrive and training their LLMs.
Nor looking at your actions or the PowerPoint you're creating.
Right.
And then they are looking at it to help you to suggest images and so forth, or Clippy style, but they're not ingesting it to train their LLMs.
No, they're enabling.
They're very clear about that.
They're using. Well, how do I say this? They're using your data. Like this is, okay. Let's go back in time a little bit. When Microsoft added Cortana to Windows, or maybe to Windows Phone, that was first. But I don't remember when this complaint came up. Some guy said to me, "Let me get this straight. I'm going to sign into this app and then it's going to have access to my calendar and, blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, yeah, it's a personal assistant, dude. If that's what you want, it has to have access to that data. He was outraged by this. This is a pretty common
panic. Instagram changes their terms of service and so forth. And people go, oh my God, they're going to sell our pictures. But they have, I think it's a misunderstanding about what permissions a piece of software needs in order to do its job.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
what it does need to do
right.
is read your data.
I'm not gonna get this correct off the top. So this is like, we talked about this last week to some degree. There's this notion that there's two windows essentially, right? There's the team that's responsible for the underpinnings, the resiliency stuff, the security foundation, blah blah blah, whatever. And then there's the clown car of people throwing like features out every month without even testing them, right? So we have to deal with that as Windows users, but the credible part of Windows, the responsible adult part of Windows, they take this stuff so seriously, you get into a weird situation. Like you clean install Windows 11, you look at Windows security, it has a yellow bang on it, and you go and you look at it, and there's 1 to 3 things that are not green, check mark, everything's great. And I'm not going to remember exactly what these are off the top of my head, but one of them can be like reputation-based protection is not enabled by default. And you can enable it, but when you do, you have to go through a UAC prompt. And the reason is, for that thing to work, it actually has to understand what apps you're using, which is a violation of your privacy. And you have to agree to it because you agree that it understanding the apps you're using in an anonymized state. It's not like Paul is associated with these apps, but rather people are running these apps. That's how it protects you. It uses heuristics and AI to look at the behavior of the apps and whatever, but it won't do it unless you let it, right? And there's two, like I said, 1 to 4 settings in Windows that are like that. Windows security, where you have to go in and manually turn them on because it won't do it on your behalf because it requires this little iota of anonymous data, anonymous personal data. And that's, in this case, how serious they take that. And so we should sort of acknowledge that that's the reality. I mean, look, we just talked about this there. They're also auto-enabling photo backup in OneDrive in a lot of people. So there's the yin and the yang, so there's a little bit of both.
And there's also definitely in the world a mistrust of big tech right now. And I think that that also plays into this. People are just assuming that they are bad actors.
Yeah, which they've earned, right? Like,
they've earned it. Can't say they haven't earned it. But I think if a company
they deserve skepticism,
says, we don't do this, that the onus is on somebody else to say, well, let me prove that they do it.
Yeah. And so unfortunately, these are the conversations or debates or even arguments, I guess, that I get into with people, which is like, I read this article, I explain it, I point to the documents, I quote from them, and people says, well, that document's not worth the paper it's printed on. Okay, look, I can't help you with your basic distrust of this company.
Exactly.
This belief that it will violate the law by not doing what it says it's going to do in a legally binding contract. I guess if you believe that,
then I want to see the proof. If you say that, I want to see the proof. I want to see the evidence.
I know it's hard. This is the way arguments like this is the way these arguments always go. Yeah. Or they'll point to the thing I just said. Well, they said, well, they started enabling this folder backup thing. Isn't that the same thing? And it's like, no, they never explicitly and also this isn't a violation of my privacy. Also, this is like claiming that forcing me to wear a motorcycle helmet or put a seatbelt on is in some way a violation of my civil liberties.
Well, that is.
Okay, common sense, right? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to get crazy there. I'm sorry.
Come on, let's not go too far.
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. Right, I was right. I'm just about to compare Gates to Hitler. I was just going right there. All right, so it's like a slippery slope. This is how the conversation ends. Anyway,
but you know what? Remember 20 years ago, everybody said, "Oh yeah, no, the government has a backdoor into Windows."
I know
that was commonly accepted. There was never any evidence.
Of course, sounds right. Of course.
Yeah. But we
no evidence. Now people outside of Microsoft have viewed the source code.
Exactly.
The source code is leaked.
Right.
There's no backdoor. I mean, like whatever. The NSA can't even get into a frickin' iPhone. Do you think they? Come on, guys.
and the reason I believe Microsoft, as I've said before, and I'll say it again, it would be against their business interests. They're better.
Yeah. You know why I believe them? Because their AI is terrible. And if this thing was reading my data, maybe it would work.
It wouldn't suck this much.
It wouldn't suck so bad. Yeah.
This would kill the sales of Windows if people found out they were doing this. It's too risky. There's no point. And there's no advantage. You don't want to read a bunch of customer garbage.
Yeah.
That's not what you want to ingest in your LLM.
So the complaint that the one complaint I keep remaking in this show and then for the past year, this thing about folder backup, right? Not that they've ever given this response, but if you could imagine some future class action lawsuit, we're sitting there on the stand and some guy from Microsoft is explaining why they did this. And he said, hey, let me read you the 17 customer stories I have from people who wrote me and said, thank you. I would have lost this thing I put on my desktop, but you backed it up to my OneDrive and I got a new computer and bang, it was back. And you can at least, that issue incenses me just as a technical person who wants to configure a computer the way I want to configure it.
Yep.
However, I have to recognize that in many cases, maybe even in most cases, for typical consumers, mainstream users, whatever, that they actually benefit from this policy. Now,
well, we get back to this whole idea that you're not a typical consumer.
Yep. No, but I do try to see the world through that lens. I try to think that clearly about this topic. And my response, my overall take on this is you could try to enable it, but you should let me say no. And if I say no, you should respect that choice. Yeah. You know, I go through a really complex series of steps to configure Word the way I want it. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as I'm done with it and I save a file to the desktop, which is where I want to save it, it says, whoa, wait a minute. Dude, no, you got to back this thing up to OneDrive. What are you doing? And it's like, you just saw me do it. Like I didn't misclick one button. I did 17 steps to get to this.
Yeah. It
like,
wasn't an accident. I'm not fumbling my way through here.
Yeah. Or in that instance, in that stupid yellow strip that comes up, give me an option that says, yep, I got it.
Yeah.
Don't tell me this ever again. And then it goes, are you sure? I am sure. And then let me go. But it doesn't do that. So to me, that's the bad behavior. Well, that and the automatic enabling of something I literally said no to 7 or 8 times. But whatever. I do agree it's maybe the best configuration, the recommended configuration for maybe most people, certainly many people.
I think that they're not doing it.
But that's not what we're talking about here, right? Like we're not talking about that. We're talking about something that's not insane, but it is insane. Like you said, it would be a net negative to Microsoft's business because it would be found out. You know, you can't get away with anything anymore. Microsoft can't secretly be training this stuff. Right. It would be found out. Someone would do
obvious
a search or whatever it is, or use Copilot. They'd be like, it spit back
something I wrote,
the exact thing I typed in this document from 13 years ago or whatever. Right. So
there's too many disincentives. There's no real incentive to do it. It doesn't make sense. And they say explicitly they don't do it. To me, case closed. Mm-hmm. And there's people in the chat right now saying, well, Microsoft's doing it.
That's what I mean. I don't like that because if that's where you're at, then just don't use Microsoft stuff. I mean, then walk away. Like you have to just if you just don't trust the company to that level, that they literally cannot be trusted.
Use Linux. You got Linux.
You got to use something else. Use a Mac. Yeah. I mean, use whatever you want.
Apple either.
No, I don't care. Like use an abacus. I don't care. But as long as it's not made by the Chinese. Those aren't Chinese. Damn it.
Wait.
Anyway,
there's a backdoor on abaci.
Yes, that's right. What's inside the bead? What the hell is a camera?
Those beads have transmitters.
I don't know. I can't solve all the world's problems. I have my own problems, but this one, I guess my point was I have a healthy distrust. That's a strong word, but a wariness certainly of Microsoft. Skepticism. Thank you. That I did the work. I looked. Did something change? I don't see anything in there. I'm not the smartest guy in the world. Maybe someone else could do it and be like, "Oh, Paul, you missed something." Go for it.
No, I think you're right. And there's
just
plenty
spread the
of
hate.
Other people who would love to catch Microsoft out, who are always looking. And you'll hear about it. If it happens, you'll hear about it. Now, let's talk about recall, because on Sunday, I had a great panel of smart people. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I asked them about recall, because, of course,
did they all lose their minds?
No.
Oh, good.
I said, would you install this? I said, yeah, I can't wait. In fact, we all agreed, I certainly believe, it should go farther. It needs to be on all platforms to be really useful.
It needs to be on all your PCs so you can sync all your data as well, right?
Well, yeah,
as an individual.
An AI that's trained on what I'm doing or can answer questions about what I'm doing should see everything I'm doing to be really useful.
That's right.
So
That was
really
the
surprised.
first thing I asked. I said,
Yeah.
okay, I use, I don't know, 18 different computers in a year. How does this help me if I can only have the data from one computer and have it stuck on that computer?
And this is where moral panic gets us into trouble because Microsoft isn't doing that because they know the hue and cry would be
That's right.
so.
Oddly, for a company that seems so disconnected from reality when they announced this, they actually did see that this would be a problem for people. But
I think a
to
group
give
of
Microsoft-
adults took over the problem and said, "You guys screwed this up." And,
But what I don't like
Got
is
it right.
I'm losing a feature that I would really like, which is it to
Right.
be everywhere.
It
And
will
make
get
a
there.
deal with Apple and Google and put it on my Android and an iPhone too, for that matter.
All right, don't get crazy. But it will get everywhere. It will go everywhere like cancer does. It will get there. But but in the recall announcement, you actually do see those two sides of Microsoft I was talking about, or Windows, I guess in this case, which is the kind of gleefully clueless Google-like part of the company that's like, you trust us for our privacy protections and security. And we're like, wait, I'm sorry, what did you just say? Like, most people in the audience, like, are you describing someone else? Because that's not how we think of you.
right.
But then they also take the security and privacy strongly enough to actually, build in some pretty serious protections, right?
Yeah.
The biggest mistake they made, though, was they were going to announce it. They were going to release it to the public without testing it privately at all. Now, granted, I know in preview, but seriously,
I think it was just deadlines, right? They were trying to beat the deadlines.
this was a huge mistake.
I totally agree.
That to me is just and the other thing that they were going to do. So, people will point at these little nitty gritty so-called security configuration changes they made.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying they didn't make any. I'm actually literally saying they didn't make any, but you know what? Don't worry about that. Let's just agree that you're all wrong and I'm right, and we'll just move on. See how easy that is? No. That's not what I'm sorry. I'm joking. I'm sorry.
That's not how that works.
No. Let's just agree
Have
that
you tried that on Stephanie? I'm just curious.
it doesn't work with her at all, actually.
So strange.
Let's not go down that path. So, with recall, let's just say that to my opinion, the biggest changes, the most material changes to this feature or app, whatever you want to call it, or I think there are three of them. So one is that they called it optional, but what they really meant was opt out, which is gross.
Right.
Now it's opt in. So it's not enabled by default. You have to opt into it to use it. And by the way, this came up last week or sometime in the past. Richard, you will remember this. One of the weird things about Windows 11 on ARM Snapdragon version with all the LLMs is like they're going to provide us with this ISO. Are the LLMs going to be included? And we know that because it's 5.1 gigabytes or whatever, they are not.
It's huge.
So what's that experience like? Well, that experience is like you go to run an AI feature and it says, hold on a second, we got to download something. And it downloads the LLMs that feature needs. And each time you use one of those features, that's how that will work. If you do like a true clean install with the Windows 11 on ARM ISO, that's how recall works. So you install this new build in the dev channel of the Windows Insider program, which, by the way, doesn't take very much time at all because I think it's just installing the app, honestly.
Yeah.
I know.
This should always be downloaded. Like everything that can be downloaded should be downloaded.
I couldn't agree more. But again, I think
That's the Xbox.
It's like they're
model,
trying
right?
to do the right thing, but it's not the right thing for everybody. And they don't give the people that just want that the ability to do that. It's so complicated. I don't understand it. But anyway, so you install recall, you reboot, you're like, great, you run recall. It's like, nope, you got to go to Windows Update, install something. Like, all right. So you go to Windows Update, you install something. It takes a little while. All right. Go back to recall. All right, here we go. Nope. Still got to go back to Windows Update. Got to install another thing. All right, cool. You're like, all right, this is it. You go back. Nope. There's one more thing. There's 3 LLMs you got to install. They
Just
don't all
install
install
them all
together.
at once.
It's crazy.
That's ridiculous.
I don't know why. Maybe that changes, but right now, when I did it, not the case.
Yeah.
All right. And then you run this thing, and you're like, that's all it does. It just
It did all that for this.
it just runs in the background. It uses 0.006% CPU, and now I have 3 million screenshots of me browsing for pants on Amazon. Dear God, why? And you wonder, and by the way, every time you look away from the damn thing and come back, it does the Windows Hello ESS experience, which is a rather tedious process of authenticating. I think we talked about this last week, this notion of, it doesn't just come up with the Windows hello thing with a little, the little eyeball goes, is it you? Is it you? And when it finds you, it gives you a little OK button in the dialog. You have to click to get by it.
It should just recognize you.
I know. It makes me
unlock.
crazy. But this is what happens again. All the outrage, whatever. Okay, fine. So
I'm starting to feel like actually, I felt this way for a while. There's a group of people who don't like anything.
Yep. And they just complain and complain and complain.
And they're really stopping tech. I think this is out there, but it's possible that AI could be a transformative technology. It's possible. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it could be a transformative technology that brings us into a future of flying cars and fusion electricity, basically free electricity, all sorts of things.
Yeah.
But we may never get it because people are so afraid of it that they stymie it. And it bothers me that we're not getting stuff that we could get.
It bothers me.
Scaredy cats.
I've raised this issue a few times this year. This notion that the most technical people are the ones who are holding us back. Interestingly, in my 16th rereading of Steve Vastanovsky's book, I was reminded of this phrase they had anyway inside Microsoft called the basement. Have you heard this term?
No.
So this is from one of the, I think it's Die Hard and Live Free, one of the Die Hard movies. There's a technical guy, the Warlock, and he lives in the basement. And these are the technical experts. These are the smartest. That we know this thing inside and out. And so when you design a product like Windows or Office or whatever it is, and then you change the UI or you change the way it works, what you're doing is making life better for everybody. Hopefully, that's your goal. I'm sorry, your goal, except for the guy in the basement or the audience that we'll describe collectively as the basement, because these guys already know every little in and out of this thing as it is, and now you're changing it and they hate it because you've made them less.
You've moved
useful or valuable,
their
whatever it
cheese,
is.
Right?
That's
a lot of value in knowing where that cheese is. And
And so this is a phenomenon that is not new. It's been around for a long time. This came up in the discussion about Windows 8 and the start screen and all that kind of stuff, whatever. But, I just have to say, in my own experience, it's real. And the way it exhibits itself for me is they announced this thing in May. They were going to ship it in June. They delayed it. There was some news over the summer, but not really. And then September, they're like, this is what we're doing. So over the course of time, I've had to write about this thing 8 to 12 times, whatever it is. And every time you get the same 3 or 5 idiots who are like, I'll never install this thing. I'll never use it. I'll stop using Windows if I have to. And it's like, hey, thanks for jumping in. Great conversation. What are you doing here? Or maybe a better example is like when you write something about Apple and there are these guys who just hate Apple. They'll never use anything Apple makes. But they seize on a story about Apple and they get it just so they can get in and be like, screw this company. I would never waste money on an Apple product. It's like, hey, thanks for jumping in. What is it you're doing? Like, what do you think you're doing here? And this is a good example of something that, like Leo said, I think it's going to benefit a lot of people. I think it will be even better when, it's on multiple devices for sure. But normal, everyday, mainstream users, useful, we talked about this notion that maybe AI solves search finally, right? This thing that Microsoft has tried to solve so many times over so many decades that by analyzing things, instead of building indexes and making people add metadata and blah, 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 I was joking about the pants thing, by the way, but I did go to a site and look at some green pants so I could later type in green pants and see if it came up. Shocker.
You never actually own green pants is what you
No, I did. I was 7 and they matched there were garanimals that matched like the top with the bottom or something. I don't know. A long time ago, but the point of it was just to give it some nonsense excuse an excuse just to try something I knew what the result would be so I could see what happened, right?
Right.
So it works. Great.
It works.
I mean, my life hasn't imploded. Hackers haven't entered my network. The police haven't seized all my belongings.
It is essentially a search product, right? Is that the software now is analyzing these screenshots and creating a summary of it. So that you go do a search into that data set.
I want it. I want it everywhere.
The thing they didn't say at the time back in May that they did say in September, and I'm not 100% sure I tied these two things together. They're not always together, but was the click to do piece, which by the way, terrible Google-like name, but whatever, let's get over that. It's one thing to find something that you're looking for. Great. But the next step is, triggering some action, like doing something with that thing you found. Now, depending on what you're looking for, maybe that's obvious, right? I don't know. But you can also go through your recall database or catalog, whatever they're calling it. And it will do text recognition if there's text in an image. It will do image recognition, obviously, if it's an image, whatever's in the image. And then you can right click on that thing and it will give you actions that you can do on that thing that are related to that thing. They're contextual, right? Mm-hmm. Now, this is another example of something that's going to be amazing when third parties can link into it, right? Like, it's pretty good what's there now because it's Microsoft stuff. Mm-hmm. So if it's an image, obviously you could edit this thing with Paint or something or whatever. Like, that stuff's all obvious. If it's text, you could do things like summarize it, make it longer, make it shorter, whatever. That's obvious. Mm-hmm. But someday there'll be an API. It will probably be called, I don't know, the Copilot runtime or some stupid thing like that.
I think it's more
just guessing.
It's more like agentic Copilot. I feel like that's where you're headed.
Yeah. Where you are, I'm trying to think of a third party, like maybe I use Affinity Photo, and now it can say something like, remove the background of this image using Affinity, or I'm just making something up. And that's not even a really good example, but, or take this text and make a video with it using AI, using some app or whatever it might be. So, this stuff is all really very much, I was going to say 1.0. It's not even 1.0, right? It's still a preview. It's still
playing around with it.
0.5 or whatever it is.
Well, I think about, like, Google does this to me all the time, where it takes a set of pictures that thinks are the same, which I'm pretty sure they're using a machine learning model to pull those pictures together, and then makes me a little animated sequence of them. And then says, did you want to save this? Because I made this for you.
Yeah. I just went through a thing with, I've been using Google Photos for years. And for some reason the other day, it was like, hey, do you want to take a few seconds to identify some people? We think we know who they are, but we just want to make sure. And, it's like Saddam Hussein and Hitler and my sister, it's like, are they related? I'm like, yeah, I think they might be, but no. No, but it's like one of the things
that's what I could tell.
Yeah, one of the things that's fascinating about Google Photos explicitly is that it can identify a picture of my daughter when she was 2,
right,
and a picture of my daughter when she's 23, and say, these are the same people, aren't they? And it's like, yikes! And yes, they are.
No,
that's useful though, isn't it?
Yeah. Right after the dog died, it was really good at putting an assembly of my dog's pictures together and going, hey, look at this. It's like, hey, thanks for that. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. No, we still have. We have the same thing, and we have.
I very consciously rounded up all the pictures of the dog and put it in a folder away because I really don't want to look at them for a while.
Yep. Yeah. No, we have the same issue. So, anyway, what we're talking. So recall. Yeah. So here's the thing. So I talked about the basement. I talked about these, the technical people. Just, I can't stand that this even exists. We get that you're never going to use it. Here's an idea. Quietly, just never use it. You don't have to hear about it. But you guys are all familiar with the Register, right? These are the guys who, 20 years ago, every time they mentioned Microsoft, it was Micro Sloth, and I think with a $sign instead of an S, that kind of thing. And they always users were punters, like this kind of stuff. So these guys are they're a typical example of the basement. Super anti recall, wanted this thing to go away, can't believe it's coming out, and now that it's out, they have to complain about it. And look. I think it's fair to say I am bracing for the first report where some security researcher says, hey, I found a problem with this thing. By the way, I haven't heard anything like that of you. So
Not
yet. So interesting, because they found that really early last time when they hacked into it and made it look like something stupid that we needed to worry about. But anyway, I have no doubt they're hammering away at it, trying to find all the problems.
I'm not unhappy that they are, because if there is a vulnerability, I think everybody wants to know about it.
I'm not unhappy either. I think this. Listen. What I said at the time was similar to what I said earlier in the show. Look, we can't make stuff up. Let's see what happens when it's out. Then then we can talk about it. Anywho, the Register has a story about the problems now that it's out, and it is hilarious, not purposefully. Because what they want to say is, yeah, it's a security problem. I got in as an admin and I got into the encrypted database. They said we weren't going to be able to do that. Right. There's none of that. These are the problems. This is unbelievable. It's a little slow making snapshots. What?
What?
It's a little slow. In other words, let me ask you a question. Like, you're doing something right now that maybe in the future you might want to search for the thing you're doing right now. Like I'll use the green pants thing.
Yep.
When do you not need to search for that? It's right when you did it.
Yeah.
Right? It's sitting there in the browser tab. I don't need to find the green pants right now.
No.
But what they're saying is, yeah, the green pants snapshot didn't take it immediately. Like I had to wait like 30 seconds for it to appear. And you're like,
Dun,
okay,
dun, dun.
what are you doing? Like okay. And then they're like, well, the OCR stuff works great, but recognizing what's in an image, it's not as accurate. Okay. Like what? I mean, like, what are you talking? This is what we're complaining about? Is this why it was delayed for 6 months? It's a little slow. Are you kidding me? This is how awful the world can be about nothing. It's nothing. So anyway.
You know what's something?
Now it's something.
You know what's something? Our fine sponsor, US Cloud. Let me take a little break, and when we come back, we can talk more about whatever the hell it is you're talking about. No, I get it. I'm with you. I'm with you, man. I'm right on. I'm totally with you. Whatever it was that you were. Let's talk about Snapdragon X Copilot Plus PCs, okay? When we come back. How about that?
Fine.
Fine.
Sorry, let me say that differently. Yes.
Our show today.
Sounds great.
No, I want recall. I want it. But I'm not going to get it because I don't use Windows for other reasons. Anyway, our show today brought to you. Is that a bad admission? I had a Windows machine, and I was going to, but I'm sending it to Paul. So I guess maybe Paul, I could get a recommendation. How about that? That'll be good. The show today brought to you by US Cloud. Now, see, if you are using Windows in your enterprise, as almost everybody does, as certainly we do, you need to know about US Cloud, the #1 Microsoft Unified Support replacement. US Cloud is the global leader in third-party Microsoft enterprise support. You might say, well, why would I want third-party? How about better, faster, cheaper? I mean, okay, that would explain why 50 of the Fortune 500 use US Cloud for their enterprise support. Switching to US Cloud could save your business 30 to 50% on a true comparable replacement for Microsoft Unified Support. Let's not say cheaper, say less expensive. How about that? That sounds better, but it will save you money. US Cloud supports the entire Microsoft stack, of course. They're there 24/7, every day of the year. They respond faster and they resolve tickets quicker for clients all over the world. And let me tell you something. When you talk to US Cloud, you're talking to real humans who are very good at what they do, expert level engineers with an average of 14.9 years. That's for break fix or DSE. I mean, I talked to these guys at US Cloud. I was very impressed. They bend over backwards. They work very hard to get the very best engineers. They pay them well. They give them great benefits. They give them great working conditions. That's why they love working for US Cloud, and that's why you're going to love the support you get from US Cloud. Oh, and by the way, their teams are 100% in the United States. Your data never leaves the US. Oh, and incidentally, they offer something Microsoft will not offer, financially backed SLAs on response time. That's a guarantee. Initial ticket responses average under 4 minutes. And you know what? When the whole thing, the network's down, nothing's working, you can't figure out what's going on, having them on the phone in 4 minutes is a lifesaver, right? Every minute counts. In 2023, 94% of U.S. clouds reported saving 1/3 or more. 94% said they saved 1/3 or more when switching from Microsoft Unified Support to U.S. Cloud. Everybody who uses U.S. Cloud loves it, from Fortune 500 companies and large health systems to major financial institutions and federal agencies. U.S. Cloud ensures that vital Microsoft systems are working for over 6 million users globally every day. And I'm talking big brands that trust U.S. Cloud. Caterpillar uses U.S. Cloud. HP, Aflac, Dun & Bradstreet. Talk about a business that can't afford to be down for even 1 minute. Under Armour, KeyBank uses U.S. Cloud. Even the folks at Gartner have chosen U.S. Cloud for their Microsoft support needs. I heard an interview with the director of information technologies. I want to get the recording so I can play it, but I'll act it out. Okay. He said, and within an hour, U.S. Cloud responded with, I want to say, 4 engineers. So not only did they bring the right guys to the call, they brought the cavalry. I just felt like, wow, that was amazing. That was unlike anything I had experienced with Microsoft in my 8 years with being with Premier. We made the right choice. Make the right choice with U.S. Cloud. Oh, and by the way, when it comes to compliance, no one gets it better than U.S. Cloud. They're ISO, GDPR, ESG compliant, and those are not, for U.S. Cloud, they're not just regulatory requirements they do. They're strategic imperatives. They really believe in this stuff. They say it drives operational efficiency. I talked to them. I was really impressed. It drives legal compliance, of course, but also risk management, corporate reputation. These are standards that foster loyalty and trust among customers and stakeholders and attract investment and ensure long-term sustainability and success in a competitive marketplace. uscloud.com. Book a call today to find out how much your team can save. I told them, don't focus on how much you could save. Focus on it's better. It's faster. Better, faster, and you'll save money. That's a pretty good deal. uscloud.com. Book a call today. Get faster Microsoft support for less. US Cloud. We thank them so much for supporting the show. We appreciate your belief in Paul and Rich and the Windows Weekly team. And you folks, you support Windows Weekly when they ask you, they say, hey, where'd you hear about us? You say Windows Weekly. Those guys are great. I believe whatever they say.
Well, I mean, trust but verify.
Trust but verify. Good way to put it. Anyway.
By the way, just got an email from Microsoft about this issue. And so,
oh, really?
Yeah, they even more explicitly, Microsoft does not use customer data from Microsoft 365 consumer or commercial applications to train foundational LLMs. The connected experiences setting in Microsoft 365 that people are referencing has no connection whatsoever to how Microsoft trains its models. This setting is not new, and it has been available since 2019.
Wow.
Yep.
There you go.
Yep.
Thank you for flattening that. I appreciate it.
I don't know. Like I said, I would, you want, when I get outraged about something, I would like to think it's coming from a place that's real,
Yeah.
I mean, of course I think everyone would like to think that about themselves. I don't know, but
the thing is, you're the experts. And I told Steve, I will ask and I will find out. Paul and Richard will know.
I've been hit by the wave a lot. It hurts, so I don't know. Expert. I don't know what that means. I don't
know what it means either.
I've
but
been on the front lines a lot. I don't know.
Okay.
You pretty diligently go back and reread stuff. Like you have to go and really read it because it is corporate speak a lot.
Yeah, that's part of the problem. But it's actually lawyers write it, right? They need to. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, like I said, I went back and looked. I was like, you never know. I mean, I want to be sure or whatever. But anyway, one not side issue, but I guess one issue with this whole recall thing right now is that it's only available in preview and only on Snapdragon X based Copilot Plus PCs, which means you have to take a perfectly working computer and put it in the Insider program, which is not something I actually recommend for most people.
Oh, wow. So you have to go to Insider to get the beta.
Yeah, it's in the dev channel, right? And so
that's
whatever
not for
that was,
consumers. That's a little hairy.
It's not great. So obviously it's going to make its way through the system. It's also going to make its way to AMD and Intel based Copilot Plus PCs in time. We don't have a schedule for that.
When those exist.
Well, they do exist, right? They those are shipping now. They just haven't made that transition, I guess, from a branding perspective. But yeah, that's another thing that has to happen, right? So supposedly by the end of the year, they'll start getting these Copilot Plus PC experiences, but we haven't heard anything about that either. So we'll see what happens.
And I'm still watching closely on, can I build a Copilot Plus PC from parts? Right.
Yeah. So I would say the ISO release is a good step, but it's like one of maybe 5 steps that have to happen. If you think back to the discussion I think we had last week about the ISO, depending on the PC you have, my recommendation is to go through the 5 or other, whatever it is, methods for recovering a computer before you ever try that, because it doesn't have the drivers, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how else to say this, but I think you would be insane to put your computer in the dev channel of the Insider program. Frankly, if you have an iron computer
not if
right
you
now.
need to use it for anything.
Yeah. And obviously I did do that because I'm insane, but that's my job. I mean, I have to do this, right?
No,
so
your insanity as a profession, I get that.
yeah, it has. I have a
my job,
rationale.
man.
I have
It's
a
my
rationale
job.
behind my insanity.
There you go.
You mean there's a method to your madness?
Yeah, there, right. What I did do, though, however, was because Microsoft offers downloadable recovery image software you can put on a USB stick, I created it and I booted the computer and made sure it worked. Right. So if I want to get it back, I can get it back, easily. If I didn't know that I could do that, or if you didn't know you could do that, don't put it in the dev channel. It will eventually make its way down to everybody, obviously.
Yeah.
I've learned my lesson. I am not.
Leo's over there like, okay, which channel do I want to be in?
I
Leo,
am not changing my channel.
what are you doing, man?
But that Snapdragon dev kit should be just the thing to throw in the dev channel. And
Yeah, well, that's what a dev kit's
And
for.
actually, I think that's maybe the best possible thing to test on for trying to recover it afterwards, using the base ISO to see what that experience is like, because that's the one that's going to have the least.
yeah, the most reference hardware.
Good
Yeah.
news, Paul. I forgot to reset it, so it's got all my crap on it. So go ahead and
I'll just blow it away from. I'll nuke it from
wipe it
orbit,
and
as we
nuke it
say.
from space. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, just as a bit of advice, I mean, I wrote an article about this when the ISO came out a couple of weeks ago. Please look at it and think about what you can do, and if you have an HP or a Lenovo, whatever type of Copilot Plus PC, see whether they offer something. I got to look up, frankly, whether they offer those recovery images, because you want that. You want the ability to get out of it.
Use the manufacturer's recovery image first.
There's a capability in Windows when you enroll a PC in the Insider program to opt out automatically when this version of Windows ships. I'm not saying it doesn't work anymore at all, but it mostly doesn't work. And because these don't map to a next version of Windows per se, the dev channel and I think the beta channel are both testing features that might or might not be added later to 24H2 right now. Doesn't mean that there'll be some switch over where you'll get out of it automatically. I wouldn't trust that. So just be sure you can get out. Is my point. Okay. I think that's about it on the recall thing, unless you'd like to beat that to death a little more.
I think we've beaten it up pretty well.
Okay.
Let's talk about how much fun 24H2 is.
Yeah. So every week there's another problem with 24H2, and I think I'm just going to make this a permanent part of the show. This week in 24H2
on broken 24H2.
Yeah. What broke this week in 24H2? Or like why don't I have 24H2 yet? It might be this. So this week, Microsoft added a new set of blockers to the Windows 11 24H2 upgrade, which is certain Ubisoft games, recent games, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Origins, Odyssey, Star Wars Outlaws.
Yeah,
and
which
one
built
other.
on the same engine.
Oh, is that okay?
Yeah.
Apparently, those games will exhibit problems if you in-place upgrade from 23 to 24H2, and it's working on a resolution with Ubisoft. So for right now, it's just going to block.
So the point being, if you have any of those games installed, it's literally just not going to offer you 24H2.
No, but the problem is it might have before. So
Right.
if you experience problems, there you go.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of other problems with this thing. There's like certain Intel drivers causing problems.
They're still
Asus
battling the
drivers.
easy anti-cheat too.
The
which
anti-cheat
is-
stuff is
There's
causing
a lot
problems.
of this. I mean, I understand the driver stuff because that's all that low-level behavior, and the chipset's fundamentally different. The anti-cheat I even buy into too because it has to do some sneaky things to detect cheaters.
Yeah, anti-cheat. I mean,
the
essentially,
Ubisoft
it's
one
pretty much
confused.
driver. It's pretty much drivers, right? Like it's isn't
pretty
that
much
like
sitting
it's
at a
like a
driver
VPN
level.
type thing or something?
Yeah, it's sniffing pretty low. But
Yeah.
the Ubisoft one is interesting. It just means they've done something sneaky, likely in video,
Yep.
right? And
Yep.
they're poking into Ring Zero on video, and the ARM machine's like, nope.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
So anyway, maybe I don't know if this is. I don't know where this falls in the list of problems with 24H2, but it's lower on the list, I would say.
They complained all along. Well, for ARM at least was the case.
Mm-hmm.
This is 24H2 on anything.
That's right.
It's just again, I wonder how much of this is ARM adaptation creating issues.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's, going back to Aria Hansen, that Run-S show, it's like 24H2 is a new version of the OS.
Yeah. Right. And because it just it's Windows 11. So you're like, doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but there was a lot of foundational work that went into this, which was one of the reasons why it wasn't an enablement package, but what do they call it? A full OS wipe or something?
Yeah.
Which is a tough way.
It's a big hill. It's a big lift, and I get it, but I don't know. I feel bad about using these terms. Like, why would you just make it a new OS? Like, it could have been Windows 12.
Right. It's mostly support lifecycle related, I would imagine. But fair enough.
Well,
yeah. So Windows 11, when it first came out in 2021, was new UI, but the underpinnings were the same.
The same, yeah.
So now we have this one that looks exactly the same, basically, but now the underpinnings are not completely
close,
different, but they've been significantly updated.
That's certainly a corporate thing where Win 11 was just a no-go because a whole lot of group policy broke.
Yep.
Right? And it's just like, sorry, not doing it. So they filled that in.
This came up last week because we talked about Ignite and the resiliency thing, but it's fascinating to me that Microsoft has kind of retroactively made real the claims for the higher Windows 11 hardware requirements, right? That now there's all these built-in security controls that really do differentiate Windows 11 from Windows 10, whereas in the beginning it was like, well, the first two and a half, whatever, 3 versions, it was like, not really, right? I mean, but now you're like, oh, no, now it's, all the new computers I've gotten recently have Windows Hello ESS on it, right?
Right.
This is a stringent new security requirement. It's like crazy. And getting the industry to just adopt something like that is,
we're back to what's my goal here building this next PC is, can I make it Hello ESS compliant from components? And I know
ESS is going to be tough. I don't think so.
Well, I'm really wondering, like, can I buy a camera assembly that's the infrared camera and so forth to just attach to the top of a monitor? I don't know.
You can't. I don't think you can. Not with ESS. I don't think so.
All right. So my goal, I'm just going to have I'm going to dismantle a laptop and turn that monitor, all those parts, into a display. That would be a weird waste of resources, would it? Maybe.
I mean, they don't make them anymore, but when Intel NUCs were a thing, and I would imagine for other NUC-like computers today, though, depending on how you bought it, you got this kind of complete computer, but without the RAM and the storage. Yeah. Right. That was one of the configurations.
Well, yeah, I bought it.
And and so you could, it's nice because it's upgradable and you can do what you want with it and all that kind of stuff. But you could make an argument that, I mean, obviously there was no camera with that or fingerprint reader, but there could have been. And that could have been an ESS computer if they made them today. And adding RAM and storage doesn't change that fact. Like that stuff's fine. Like you're not, you're not bypassing anything or whatever by doing that. So it's a possibility. Well, it's not a possibility. They don't make them anymore. Anyway, maybe there will be PC kits for 24H2 and forward where that's the case, where it's like an ESS compliant kit, and then you just add the other stuff that's not security related, maybe.
Yeah, and I have friends in the right places too. So I could go so far as to poke in on this and say, like, can I third party buy a component that would normally be, for a builder?
Could I buy a laptop motherboard?
Yeah. What is it? Is it you need a TPM? What chip?
Oh no, TPM's in everything. It's the camera.
It's everything.
Facial recognition part.
You have to go look this up on Microsoft Learn. It's crazy. There's some list of like 27 requirements. It has to be factory certified by Microsoft and the PC maker to meet all of the requirements. That this thing has never been. No, you can't add to it. You can't add once you add an external camera or an external fingerprint reader, you don't have ESS anymore. It will not work because it can't guarantee that the system has never been compromised. There's something, you could have put something in the line that reads the keystrokes or your fingerprint or whatever.
This is a response to the weird super micro fake issue that Bloomberg raised years ago about the little Chinese rice chip placed on the super micro motherboard so it could spy on you.
Yeah,
they really want to control the supply chain, the whole chain, and they won't certify it secure until they can do so.
And maybe they need to, Now I'm looking at
that. Means it's not going to be a build your own PC ever.
No, it's going to be tough.
Well, no, but that's why I said if you could have a PC kit.
Yeah, you'd have to have an ESS.
ESS kit that would have a security solution or two security solutions.
I mean, what else is there?
Well, there's the case, the RAM, the storage, and then other peripherals that you could add keyboard, mouse, whatever screen,
Yeah, but I mean, can't you buy an ESS PC that doesn't that you could upgrade the RAM and the peripherals and the monitor?
It's a real. I mean, full stop. Is there a desktop off the shelf Hello ESS capable machine?
So during the next ad break, I'm going to go take a look and find out because
do some shopping.
I know there. I bet. No, I mean, I think I have one. I'm going to go find out. But
it's probably a laptop, right?
I mean a desktop PC. So it's an all-in-one computer with a built-in webcam, right? So I bet it is ESS. I'm going to go look. I'm trying to think. I can't remember. Yes, I can. So probably over the summer, first gen Meteor, like computers. Well, even those could be ESS. I'm trying to remember the last time I had a non-ESS laptop in for a review. It was early this year. It's been a while. Like they're very common now. All of a sudden, they came out of nowhere. Like this was like a unicorn last year. Like you could get them.
But who needs this enhanced sign-in security? ESS?
Well, this is going to become the baseline. So this is the baseline requirement for Copilot Plus PC. And one of the things we talk about is how this will over time become the baseline requirement for Windows.
All PCs. Okay.
Yeah. So this is the beginning of that. And but the thing is, most of them are, I guess, technically like AMD, Intel style Copilot Plus PCs. But even before that, you could get like a first gen Meteor Lake if configured that way by the PC maker. Again, expensive, hard to do. That could have it. I did have some, or at least a couple, but it was rare. It was unusual. Now it's become very common, at least in the premium PC space. Anyway, it's part of this is, you're trying to bring an industry along with you. It's not like Apple's like, we just switched over. Now we're doing this new security thing. You got to get the buy-in of all the chip makers, and the PC makers. It's a little complicated.
And the PC master race is not going to like this, right, Richard?
No, I just want to be able to build one. That's all.
Yeah, but I bet you. I mean, that sounds like something you can't.
Well, okay, but what's the downside here? So, in other words, let's say you can't build one, right? So you build a computer. It's based on whatever chips you have. So you'll have Windows Hello. Or you could, right, depending on the hardware you choose. You just won't have Windows Hello ESS. So from a user experience perspective, it's basically identical. I think the big difference from using it is just that Windows Hello ESS requires you to authenticate way more, like way more. There's no, like in Windows Hello, there's a setting that says after I've been gone from the computer for whatever number of minutes, force me to authenticate. That's grayed out in ESS. You authenticate every time. If you turn this way and come back, authenticate.
So that's why I don't think it will be all Windows. At some point,
you're going to make people angry if you interrupt.
It's going to make people really angry.
It's going to.
That's okay for a business that needs enhanced security, but I want to play Valheim at home.
Yeah,
I don't need that, and I want to build my own PC. I don't need that.
Yeah, but the people that actually say that are
the PC master race.
Are a tiny percentage,
okay,
right, of the user base. I mean, and it is a PC, so you're going to have this option. Like this will be an option. I guess what I'm trying to say is, in Richard's case, he's going to build his computer. It's not going to be ESS. So what? Is it okay? Like it's okay.
Oh,
right?
So you will be able to put it on Windows on a PC that doesn't have that full enhanced security.
Yeah, I definitely want to try and get to the Copilot Plus PC standard, but if they require Hello ESS for that, that's a problem, right?
Which is weird because it's not. AI has nothing to do with ESS.
No,
I mean,
but they've tied them together because of things like recall, where you want that kind of data highly secure.
So it's Steve Gibson's fault.
Totally. Yeah, I blame Steve all the time.
Okay, I get it. Yeah, they want enhanced security. I understand.
Yeah.
And to be clear, because everyone seems to confuse this matter, that was the case the day they announced recall. This is not new.
Right.
This is
it's not new. They just did a bad job of
it wasn't
explaining
well communicated.
it.
Right. But now they're just going along like, well, we have a new security architecture. It's like, do you? Because I'm looking at the thing you wrote back in May and they look the same. But, whatever. Again, I will beat that to death if you let me. Let's spend an hour on it. No. Okay. So Ubisoft got that. There are no insider bills this week. It's Thanksgiving holiday in the US. Last week we did.
Later today, as soon as we're finished the show.
Yes, we're right in the middle of it. Right now that I've said that, it just went out there.
Here it comes. I've been waiting.
There was a new beta channel build last week that has an early peek at we're going to call it like, what's the Apple, not handoff. Maybe it is handoff. Is that continuity? Is that the Apple stuff? When you can pick up something where you left off on a different device, what's that called? Handoff, right?
I don't remember.
I don't know.
On a Mac, it's handoff.
Handoff, yeah. So Microsoft would like to do as much of that as they can in Windows. It's probably going to be Android only, obviously. But
too bad
actually,
they
in
don't
this
have a
case,
phone.
yeah. Well, the idea is you're working on a document on your phone or tablet or something, and you turn, you go home or whatever it is, log into your computer, and you get a little pop up that says, "Hey, would you like to, keep working on that document?" And so this comes from one. This assumes that you're using OneDrive, storing the thing in OneDrive and blah, 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 whatever. And by the way, when you click yes, obviously it enables folder backup because, Microsoft. And then, no, I'm just kidding. But I don't know. It's interesting. I get it. I can understand. This is a key pain point, I think, for Microsoft, that they can't duplicate this thing Apple's doing because Apple controls the whole stack, right?
Right. This is the advantage of the wall.
iPhone, iPad, Mac, it's a little easier when you control all of it. So they want that so bad. And we'll see. Okay. Now, this is the same as the Microsoft 365 is using my data to train AI. And it is also exactly the opposite. And what I mean by that is, people have gone online and published like a picture, like, look, they're testing this thing in Windows now where they're not going to put the little start backup icon in File Explorer for those folders that could be backed up with folder backup. They're getting rid of, forced folder backup. Wait, what? What makes you say that? This is one of, 7 places where it wants to remind you, right, of maybe you should turn this feature on. I'll list a couple of the others off the top of my head. Pop-up banner notifications, toasts in the Settings app, in the Start menu next to your user profile, in the OneDrive app, in the Windows Backup app, which also is advertised. Like, it's only one of the ways. In fact, it's arguably the least annoying of the ways. So I'm super glad they're getting rid of it. This is definitely a step back from the cliff, if you will. But this does not mean, like, it does not follow.
De-insurtification? Is that what you're talking about? That's not even a thing.
It is it is a little bit, but I need to know more. So yes, I'm glad someone found this, uncovered this in some beta build of Windows 11. Yay. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. This doesn't actually mean they're getting rid of the feature, like the forced usage, right? It does not mean that. I mean, I wish it did. I wish I could say that.
Well, what does it mean?
It just means they're going to get rid of one of the ways that they notify you that they want you to do this.
Not all.
So, for
them,
example, on my computer
one.
here, on this computer, I don't have folder backup turned on. So when I go to the desktop, it up in the corner, not in the corner, on the left side of the address bar, there's a little Start Backup button, and it animates, by the way. So when you first hit the folder, it does a little, does a little thing. It wants to get your attention.
A little more annoying.
Yeah. And
a little more annoying.
I don't like it, so I don't do it. It's got like a little up arrow on it. The up arrow animates. It's annoying. But like I said, it's actually not the most annoying of the ways in which it tries to prompt you to do this. I mean, honestly, the most annoying is when they just turn it on. But it's one of the ways. So someone can see in a beta build that they're looking at turning that off or providing a way to turn it off. Actually, that's actually the right way to look at it, because I think you right click on it and say, I don't want to see this anymore. And yes, that's what I want for all of that stuff. So we'll see. Maybe it's part of something bigger, but for now, it looks like it's just the one thing. They didn't find any examples of this anywhere else in the UI. So I don't know. Don't get too excited, I guess is my point. Because it never ends. More earnings. HP and Dell reported earnings without getting into the weeds. Very low single-digit growth, if that, in PCs over the quarter, or in HP's case, the year. These companies, both, and Lenovo also, and IDC and Gartner and everyone else, were like, yeah, this is going to be the year, and yeah, this is not going to be the year. So both companies literally said, we don't see the big upgrade bonanza happening until the second half of 2025 now. So yay. And that, of course, is when Windows 10 goes out of support. There are indications that like these AI PCs, which include Copilot Plus PCs, have not driven like an upgrade wave per se. I mean, people are buying them, like they're doing pretty good. And eventually there'll be some big percentage of all the computers, of course, because eventually every PC will be an AI PC. But I don't think Microsoft did a great job of providing unique software that makes sense to people in the system. So, I mean, it's 6 months later, we're talking about recall still not out,
No.
So it's taking a while, unfortunately.
Well, it's
Yeah,
not
no,
out
yeah.
because of Steve Gibson. I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
It could have been out.
I mean, honestly, screw that guy. If I could just speak honestly, I'm a little tired of the Steve Gibson stuff.
Steve. I'm just teasing.
No, we love Steve Gibson.
We do.
No, I mean, I went back. These guys don't always do this in a timely fashion, but Gartner and IDC both had their respective reports about PC sales in the most recent quarter. And the previous 2 or 3 quarters, depending on which one you were looking at, we saw mild growth, 1 point something percent, like, or flat growth, whatever. This past quarter, PC sales actually fell again.
Isn't this shouldn't it be, is this normal now how it should be from now on? It went up because of COVID and work at home.
Yeah. So what you're really asking is, have we reached this new plateau where this, plus or minus some percent is the PC market?
Yeah.
That's what I'm wondering. But there
so.
is, but we do have these upgrade waves, right?
Yeah.
And the corporate PC market, which by the way is the only part of the PC market that did well in any way this year for anybody. PC, like consumer PCs have fallen off a cliff. Like these sales are by and large, any gains they have are from the commercial side. Is gonna happen when Windows 10 goes out of support, right? And so, there'll be a bump of some kind, and by October of next year, hopefully.
When there'll be a bump?
Yeah.
When 60% tariffs on products from China go into effect.
I can't wait for that.
Then there will be a massive. They'll just buy everything that's already in the country. Will be sold out.
Yeah.
What do you call the opposite of a bump?
And then the sales will drop off a cliff because there'll be a massive increase in prices.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? America first. That's all.
But I'm going to Madeira Park to buy my PC.
Yep. That's right.
Not a lot of Best Buys up here.
No,
so you know. Yeah.
You guys just drive down to Vancouver. I know.
Pretty much. Yeah. No. Yeah. Normally, I would just order by Amazon, but the postal service is on strike. So,
What?
Yeah, Canada Post is been on strike for almost 2 weeks.
That means no mail at all?
No mail, except for government checks.
What's
That's
the issue?
Problematic.
What's their issue?
Wages and worker replacement, the usual things.
Is it because I can't retire until I'm 41 or something? It's like Canada,
Mail. It's a good job being in a mail carrier. It's a great job.
In this country, it certainly is.
Yeah. It is in the U.S. too.
Well, sort of. My brother used to be a mail carrier, and the one thing that they do now, they didn't do when he hasn't been a mail carrier for a long time, but they started metering the routes. So they have these little check-in that you have to go up with a scanner on a telephone pole and be like, beep,
Oh,
and
that's
yeah. Because my brother used to run a side business. He was doing great, and then they figured out you could do your route in 17 minutes. Why is this taking all day?
Dear.
Yeah.
That's why Amazon now is putting cameras in the trucks to watch you and make sure you don't do things like sing out loud.
Yes.
They actually prohibit singing out loud in the Amazon delivery.
Sometimes the Amazon driver will take a picture of the package when he leaves it on your front porch. I got a picture of my package in the air on the way to my front porch.
What I don't understand,
which was fine. It was glassware.
They don't always take a picture. They sometimes take.
No, I know it's
when
completely
do they
random.
have to, and when don't they? I don't. It's not.
I know it doesn't make any sense.
I have the garage delivery. That's been kind of fun because I got to put a sign that says packages here because it's like a Easter egg hunt.
Yeah. Where'd they put it?
Where'd they put it? It's in here somewhere.
I have a UPS package that I guess has arrived that was delivered by the post office to my previous house.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, that's not good.
It's fine, but this is where is this from exactly? I have to deal with a federal agency, worldwide shipper of goods, the small business that put this thing in the mail, and the idiots who bought my house. What the hell is this? It's crazy. But anyway, that's
my goodness.
This is the world we live in. It's whatever.
Go ahead and finish your this segment because I do want to do an ad. We need to do an ad here.
I don't know if you must have talked about this on the Google show. This report, or I think it's a set of reports now, that Google is going to merge or get rid of Chrome OS essentially.
Right.
And base future versions of this thing on Android.
Right.
Yeah.
This actually kind of freaks me out a little bit.
Because it's such a good idea?
No, I like Chrome OS. I will miss Chrome.
No,
OS.
there's a simplicity to Chrome OS that
it's just a browser.
Yeah, it's lacking everywhere else.
Yeah.
And I Android is so complex. There's an element of Android that I think does make sense. Back in, I don't know what, June, August, whatever, they announced they were going to bring more of the underpinnings of Android into Chrome OS for things like device driver compatibility, because device driver makers, hardware makers target Android because, several billion users makes sense. And Chrome OS has like 3 users, and they don't do that. They don't do that testing. So like, if we bring that over, we're going to benefit from that. And it's like, yeah, no, that makes sense to me. But now you're going to take this like hairball and what do you do? I'm a little worried.
It doesn't
about
have
this.
to be a hairball either, right? Like,
I agree.
Well, and to be fair, even Chrome OS is becoming more and more complex.
Yeah.
When it first came out, what literally is a browser.
I mean,
And
God,
then
you
they
could run
added
Linux
Android
apps in this
Store.
thing. You could run Android apps in this thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm worried about it. I agree that when you look at like the iPad and you're like, okay, so what is it that makes this thing so good for tablets compared to Android, right? There are probably 2 things. One is that developers actually give a crap about iOS
apps
and
are
iPadOS.
made for it. Yes.
Developers follow Apple in lockstep in a way they just do not with Google. I don't know what's going on there.
No, no tablet has been really successful except for the iPad.
And Android tablets could. I have a Pixel tablet over here, which, by the way, Google is discontinuing.
I know, but 16 by 9, like whatever, like.
I had an expanding battery on my Google tablet 3 months after the warranty expired.
Yeah, well, okay,
that's frustrating.
But the other one is, this is not exactly true, but the Safari web browser and the iPad is not the desktop browser, but it's more desktop class, if you will. Mm-hmm. It has more of the desktop type features. And I feel like if they just, I don't know, I guess you would simplify the UI somehow. This is all coming. This is all testing in Android, whatever the beta thing is they have now, where they have a desktop mode with like a taskbar and a start menu looking thing. But they need they need like the desktop browser, right? You need Chrome, like the actual Chrome that we use on Windows or whatever, like that needs to work. And then, I don't know, maybe it'll be okay. But
I wonder if Google had a hint or an inkling that the Department of Justice was going to try to make them sell Chrome.
Exactly.
And they thought, well, at least we still got Android.
Well, of course,
that's we'll always have Bowie is like the line from, and the guy's like,
my favorite line, I watched Demolition Man last night, is, after the franchise war, every restaurant's a Taco Bell.
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
that line. Love that line. It's the best.
So good.
After the DOJ lawsuit, every operating system's Android.
Oh boy.
Oh
Yikes.
boy.
Yep.
Oh boy. All
anyway, just a little.
Just a thing. Just a little something.
Something.
Other
people
Did you
make
know
operating
there was a big
systems?
outage of Microsoft 365?
It was a tough day yesterday.
Which is one of the things that maybe would cause people to pause before they buy the thin client to do Windows.
You know what happened? Everyone was clicking opt into AI training thing, and it just crashed the whole system.
He's joking, kids. Steve, he's just joking. I'm just saying. We will be back with more of Windows Weekly in just a bit, but I want to tell you about Experts Exchange, our sponsor for this segment of Windows Weekly. You listen to our shows because we're experts and you learn things, right? Imagine a 24-hour, always online network of trustworthy, talented tech professionals where you could go to get industry insights and advice from people who are actually using the products in your stacks. Instead of paying for expensive enterprise-level tech support, get answers from the people who know. From a community that you're a part of. That's Experts Exchange. As the tech community for people tired of the AI sellout, Experts Exchange is ready to help carry the fight for the future of human intelligence. We need a there you go. There's a logo. There's a symbol. I'll hold that up. Experts Exchange gives you access to professionals in over 400 different fields. I'm talking programming, Microsoft, Azure, AWS, DevOps duplicate questions are not only encouraged, they're welcome. You don't get the snark you do at other places where they go, oh, the questions are a bit asked and we're closing this thread. Or worse, you could do it that way, but I don't think you should. Why don't you do it this way? No, the contributors at Experts Exchange are nice. They're tech junkies who love graciously answering all questions. You know why? Because they understand that the real reward for the expertise, the hard-earned knowledge that they have won, is passing along to other people, paying it forward, sharing it. And they're there to do that. It's just, that's what community is all about. We help each other. One member said, quote, I've never had ChatGPT stop and ask me a question before, but that happens on EE all the time. It's an exchange of information from humans. They're proudly committed to fostering a community where human collaboration is fundamental. And the expert directory is full of experts who will help you find what you need. Many of them listen to our shows, by the way, like Rodney Barnhart, who's a security now and a Twit listener. He's a VMware V-expert. Or the well-known ethical hacker, Edward von Biljon. He is a Microsoft MVP as well. So imagine, he's an ethical hacker and Microsoft MVP. This guy's like a font of wisdom. Plus Cisco design professionals, executive IT directors, and more. Here's another point that's, I think, pretty important. Other platforms betray their contributors. Everybody does it now. X does it. LinkedIn does it. Reddit does it by selling the content you put on those sites to train AI models. At Experts Exchange, your privacy is not for sale. They stand against the betrayal of contributors worldwide. They have never and will never sell your data, your content, or even your likeness. They block and strictly prohibit AI companies from scraping content from their site to train their LLMs. And by the way, that's a full-time job blocking those guys because they're always trying to sneak in, but they stop them. And the moderators strictly forbid the direct use of LLM content in the threads because the whole point of this is you're talking to humans. It's an exchange between human beings helping each other. And frankly, if you're an expert, you deserve a place where you can confidently share your knowledge without worrying about some company coming along and stealing it to increase shareholder value. This is your safe haven from AI, something I think a lot of you would like. Join Experts Exchange today. You get 90 days free. You don't even need to give them a credit card. They know you're going to love it. So they're offering it 3 months for free. Just to give you a taste, visit e-e.com/twit. I had a great conversation with these guys. I used to use the Experts Exchange all the time when the Tech Guy show was on to get answers to questions I don't know. And I was really thrilled when they called and they're back. It's wonderful. Thank you, Experts Exchange, for supporting Windows Weekly. e-e.com/twit. All right, Paul Thurrott, Richard Campbell, on we go with Microsoft 365er.
Yeah. There's not much to say here because no one can access the service, but I guess.
How long was it down?
It's up and running now.
It was it's fine.
The cloud goes down from time to time. I know that's one of the reason people say, I'm not going to work in the cloud, but we're just kind of used to it. You go get a cup of coffee.
Yeah, no, and their outages are less often than your own.
That's
an interesting point.
Yeah.
You're more likely to be out than they are.
Also, their outages, they'll fix it. You could just. Right. I guess I'm just gonna.
The best thing about the cloud is it's somebody else's fault.
somebody else's problem too. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yep. So according to their SLA, I think you'll all be getting a refund. So don't worry about it. So what do you think? What was I went and looked at the admin center, and my God, is there a lot of information?
Yeah, it was not an elegant outage. There's been no explanation for what it actually was, much less how they actually fixed it. It's just that it's back up now. But they dumped a lot of they were really thrashing. It seemed like on this one, where they just kept putting out postings, but most of them were we're still down.
Yeah. So as of right now, in this glaringly white screen I'm looking at, everything is up and running. That's what I see. So It took it was over 24 hours, I would say, before it got to that state
And it
again.
sounded like the admin tools came up last. So
Yeah. I got in yesterday morning. This is on the commercial side. So my understanding is this impacted both consumer and commercial, actually, but it's more serious on the commercial side because of all the services that are impacted, and they pay for those things. Like there's a lot of it. But yeah, there were certain parts of it came back faster than others. I think, Outlook Web Access, whatever they call that today, I think it's actually Outlook Web Access. I don't know. Was one of the last ones to be reliably up for everybody. But yeah, it took a long time. Do they typically provide like a post-mortem kind of a thing?
I mean, they used to, but it's just like the way the security documentation used to be like the reference material. This is the right way to do it. And a few years ago, it just sort of faded off. And it seems like as of late, outage analysis and summary is just not good anymore. I'm not sure why.
Yeah, I don't either. Okay. Well, your nightmare is over, and it's time for Thanksgiving, so you can stop working again.
There you go.
So everything's fine.
Yeah.
Actually, Thanksgiving's probably a good time.
Somebody's Thanksgiving got screwed up. That's the big
Yeah.
Like they did not get on an airplane yesterday like they were planning, or the day before.
Exactly.
Right? They've been.
Yep.
Now they're trying to get to wherever they're trying to go.
Yeah, it was probably all the changes they had to make so they could train their AI. I mean, it's
You're not
technical.
helping. I not knew helping.
It. Sorry,
Not
it's hard. It's hard being this cynical. I'm sorry. Or sarcastic.
No, it's not,
I
Paul.
guess.
It's a way of life.
It comes all too easily. Yeah.
It's a very natural.
And then this is just a grab bag of stuff. We already talked about the Microsoft training. In fact, I just mentioned it, of AI not happening, et cetera. Amazon, I think starting late last year and then culminating early this year, invested $4 billion in Anthropic, the AI startup, and has now invested another $4 million. So
That's Claude is their claim to fame.
Cloud. It's good.
yeah, which by the way is looking increasingly pretty good, right?
Got a great reputation without a doubt.
Yeah, Anthropic just announced like a new standardized way that we'll see if anyone adopts it for integrating AI with data, and they released it as open source, and we'll see
Like
what
RAG,
happens
like
there.
Retrieval X.
No, it has one of those stupid names like MPO, or like it's a acronym of their own.
Yeah, too many acronyms. I pay for Copilot, Claude, OpenAI, Perplexity AI.
Wow.
Well, it's partly like my job.
yeah,
to
And you
try
just set
all
them off
these
talking
things.
to each other. Is that it?
Yeah,
Well,
you
that's
keep
a good
busy.
idea. I
Like
would try that.
Yep. So I'm going to
What's
do
interesting
some.
is they're all good in different ways, and like
Right.
I'll use Claude to do that. I'd use OpenAI to do that kind of thing.
So OpenAI and Anthropic are both supposed to be particularly good for programming type topics.
Yeah, I use
And,
I
the
use
pair programmer
ChatGPT
stuff.
for coding.
Yeah. So GitHub Copilot is going to be, or has already been opened up so that it can support third-party AIs, including Anthropic and OpenAI.
I don't pay for Copilot on GitHub.
Yeah.
I have a
Right, so-
paid account, but I don't.
I didn't do this. I set out to do this yesterday. I got distracted, but I want to do one of those side-by-side things. So I'm going
Yeah.
to try Anthropic first and like have Visual Studio open. And then I guess, what do you do? It's like copy and paste code and be like, could you make this more efficient?
Or you just ask it to do stuff. This is for me. What at first I did is I made a custom GPT that I put all the Lisp books in, and it was very good. And I said, don't give me an answer that's not in one of these books. So it was very reliable. It was very good. But then it's funny because this was a year ago, as the LLMs got better, pretty soon I was able to ask the same questions of an unmodified LLM, and they would get the same answer.
It would be this,
answers.
So they're starting,
They're all very good at coding, in other words. And even
I always
with
thought
Common
that
Lisp, which is very
Google's
obscure.
strength was going to be they would in the early days of this, by which you mean like 7 months ago, they were saying things like, AI is really bad at math. Like you can't, you could,
Well, it couldn't
1 plus
do
1 equals
arithmetic.
Q or whatever.
Yeah.
Or it's really bad at certain,
Sorry,
it obviously.
is that JavaScript? I think it's JavaScript.
JavaScript.
So-
Well, it's fine if it's integer math, but it's let's be accurate here. But I always felt like Google was going to be the one that would be able to meld like up to date search
I pay
results
for
and
Gemini
level
too,
of
and
accuracy.
It's not that good.
With
No.
and so far that's not played out. So we'll see where that goes, but. But actually, this ties into the next one. That was coincidental, sort of. But, Brave Search is one of the 1,100, third-party search services we have. They're free of big tech, right? That's not based on Bing and to some degree or whatever else. So they've got that going for them. Of course, that also means that there's limited in some ways, right? I mean, they don't have that huge data store backend to kind of work on. But they also have Leo, which is not Leo Laporte, but Leo, their
I know
AI.
I'm very annoyed.
Yep. Sorry. Talk to your parents about
Nothing
that
I can do. I know. There's nothing I can do about that one.
Yeah. And they are like Google and probably Bing. I don't look at Bing. I'm normal. But like Google have been putting AI answers at the top of search results for a while. So now they're doing and that's called Answer with AI. So they have a new chat mode for search where if you ask it an explicit question, what is the capital of Alaska or whatever, and it gives you an answer with AI, there's a little chat box under there and you can ask follow-up questions. It'll keep the context. And because it's Brave, it's, private and yada, yada, yada. It's good. I wrote this in the article, but I asked Brave Search, like, how many Star Wars movies are there? And it said there were 12 canonical Star Wars movies. So I'm like, no, that's not true. There are 11, right? And I'm like, what does that mean? There's like the 9 movies, right? And then the 2 standalone movies, Solo
Right.
and Recon, what's it called? I can't remember. Doesn't matter.
Rogue One.
Which,
Rogue One,
by
thank
the
you.
way, points out humans are no better than AI at this.
Well,
Why
I
do you
looked this up.
expect the AI to be right? And you couldn't remember Rogue One. I mean, that's
I couldn't remember the name of it, but I know there are 11, except that I Googled it. And when you go to Wikipedia says there are 12 too.
That's why
But the
the AI
12th
says
one
there's
is,
12.
but the 12th one is not the same one.
right.
So in Brave Search and their AI, whatever they're using, that said that the 12th movie was Mandalorian or something. And it was
That's a TV show.
That's a TV show. But on Wikipedia, apparently they combined some of the episodes of the animated Star Wars TV series, which was
Clone Wars.
also forgetting Clone Wars, yes, and released it theatrically on a limited basis. And to them, that qualifies
movie.
as
Yeah.
a movie. And I'm like, yep, I'm going to go with 11. I still think it's 11.
Let me ask
Yeah.
Perplexity Pro.
Yeah.
By the way, when I started typing how many Star Wars, they offered how many Star Wars movies are they? How many in order? How many there in total, including spin-offs? They know this is probably not a great test question, right? Because
Okay, we'll see what they say, though.
yeah, let's see. We're doing them in order.
There's the 9 episodic movies,
And then the 2
there's-
standalones.
No,
There are
there's
currently
there's
12
Clone
canonical
Wars,
Star
Rogue
Wars
One,
movies.
and Solo: A Star Wars Story.
Yeah.
You forgot Han
So,
Solo.
no, I
No, he
didn't.
mentioned
It was
Solo.
Solo
Okay,
and
okay,
Rogue
okay.
One. And,
Yeah, they
but they're
count the
saying
Clone Wars
they're
as
also
the
adding the
Clone
Clone
Wars.
Wars. And I'm like,
Yeah.
bullshit. Like, that doesn't count.
Well, does it?
It doesn't.
It's worth noting, by the way, Perplexity says, it's worth noting while this is the chronological order of events of the Star Wars universe, it differs from the release order. Oh, good. It's total. For completionists, there are also 2 legacy films that are no longer considered canon, The Caravan of Courage, an Ewok adventure, and Ewoks the Battle for Endor.
All right. So here's the thing. They made Star Wars as a movie. They released in the theater. And then at one point it was on HBO and then eventually was on TV. That doesn't mean it's a TV show.
How about The
So-
Mandalorian and Grogu?
That's coming later. So
That's coming. Yeah.
yeah, I'm saying as of today, the fact that they took episodes of a TV show and put it on the big screen,
No.
I don't know.
Doesn't
that
count.
No, I don't think
But
that
in this
counts.
case, they got 12 because they include Clone Wars.
That's what I'm saying. That one I don't
saying.
think it counts.
That's
That's baloney.
But that's not The Mandalorian. That's
No. This
No.
is assembling a
That's-
bunch of
that's a
animated
cartoon.
cartoons and making
Yeah.
them into and calling it a movie.
Animated TV cartoons.
Yeah.
Well, so much for AI. Obviously, AI is an idiot.
I think that's what I just proved. Thank you. So that was my point. Dumb.
This is all a waste of
Dumb.
time.
AI, you're so
If
dumb.
they could just train it on our data, this thing would make sense.
If they would just ask Paul,
yes.
they would know.
Hold on. I'm getting a phone call. It's AI. Yeah. What do you need? 11. The answer is 11.
11.
God damn it. Do not screw with me with Star Wars.
I just think it's ironic that we expect AI to be 100% accurate when we as humans are not.
We expect all technology to be at 100% or accurate, I should say. I mean, that's the problem. Like
It's not, though.
yeah, I know.
I mean, back to when Intel couldn't do floating point math. I mean,
I will never forget that as long as I live, because my friend spent a big money on a Pentium and he was so excited to get it, which I think at the time was like 60 megahertz, if I'm not mistaken,
so
or 50. So
expensive.
stupid number.
Yeah.
And he had to send it back.
4.24.
He had to give him the credit card number and send it back. Yeah, 2 + 2 = Q.
Yeah.
Yep. No, that's not the answer. And yeah, we're in trouble. Well, at least
But at least
Intel
we've
is
now
doing
added
great
an
now.
interface to these failures that apologizes to you when it does it incorrectly.
Yes.
Yeah. That's
That was
upgrade.
I was sitting at that. Oh, I forgot to look at the desktop computer and doing whatever I was doing, and I was shutting something down, and it wasn't working right, and I cursed at the computer, and then my iPhone's over there, and Siri said something like, "Well, that's a good question, Paul," and I'm like, "Shut up, you idiot!" It's like it's like you have to remind me of how stupid you are, like every time.
Basically, by the way, I just want to say, and Lisa's sitting right, I'm not saying anything out of school, but when Lisa doesn't want Siri to continue, she doesn't just say, thank you, goodbye, cancel.
No.
She swears. She swears. She says, shut the
Yeah,
beep
because
up.
I know why.
And it works.
Aside from
It
the
works.
irritating.
By the way,
bit,
it does work. I'm
Yeah.
so
it
surprised.
works, but she also gets like, well, you don't have to be a jerk about it. Listen,
She's flipping me
I
off
feel
now,
like
so I'm gonna
I do have to be a jerk about it because you're that stupid. Like literally, you're not only not adding value, you're just getting in the way. That's my point. But maybe there's a training
It's
aspect to this.
okay to swear at machines. They
Yeah.
have no feelings.
Oh,
and
and
there are parents out there who teach
some
their
guy
kids.
at Apple's looking at the logs and he's like, I gotta say, like the number one interaction with Siri is shut up. And it's all caps. Maybe we should fix this.
There are parents who try to teach their kids to be polite to Siri and thank
I
you
know,
and please and
yeah.
stuff. No, you're teaching them the wrong thing. That's a machine. Don't make them
Right.
think it's a human. They need to learn the distinction right now because they're going to grow up in a world where the distinction becomes
I know.
difficult.
Well, every time that stupid thing pipes up on my iPhone, I'm reminded of how stupid it is. Like, come on.
This is
I'm
why
waiting for it to be like, actually, Paul, there were 12 Star Wars movies. And
Oh, believe me, we lost the chat room. They are now. That's the debate going on right now.
oh yeah, of course. This is honestly how our minds work. This is a
This is what we care
psychological. They should train AI on this.
Yeah, this is what we care about.
Oh yeah, no, you yeah, of course.
So
You said, Paul, you said-
Leo is wrong. On,
Leo was
but it
wrong.
Braves
yeah.
Leo.
.com.
Yeah.
Leo was wrong again. Monkey Boy was my favorite early response to me on what do you call it? News groups or whatever. News
Wrong
groups.
again, monkey boy.
It was like my first online interaction. It was like, yeah,
your
not off
first
to a good
flame
start
war.
here.
Aw. Baby's first flame war. Always a
Okay.
Oh,
Bunch of antitrust.
That was a Windows Weekly title back in 2010. Wrong again, monkey.
Oh yeah, no.
Was
I'm
it
sure.
really? Oh, you
Yeah.
searched
No,
for
it makes sense. It's like,
What Windows Weekly? What episode?
Oh, doesn't 175.
Oh, we got there early.
early
while
on.
ago.
Yeah. Well, it was a formative experience for me. You know, it really kind of set the stage for like a lifetime of online activities.
I love it. It's so fun.
Yeah, because it's not enough to argue with my wife. I get to argue with the planet.
Argue with software too. Very nice.
Yeah,
You
I know
my
software
habit-
exactly.
When my voice rec device for the house, which is plugged in through OpenAI, misbehaves, I just unplug it.
Yeah,
And you know what? It feels good.
Which, by the way, is what they do to C-3PO and Star Wars.
This
Beautiful.
is what I'm saying. Just
Just
pull the
unplug
plug
this
out.
thing.
Yeah,
You know,
buy-
don't tell me the odds.
You know, you
That's what
bother
I would
me
say.
less
That's what
when
you
you
should-
have no electricity. I really
That's what
like
you should
that.
say to us. Don't tell me the odds. And
Don't
then
tell
it's
me
like,
the
what?
odds.
What are you doing? I don't know what you're talking about. If you don't understand that reference, you're not sentient. Just get out of here.
We're all fine. How are you?
While we were talking, Google has asked an appeals court to throw out the order in Epic v. Google that requires it to open up the
Oh,
Play
really?
Store and Android. Yep. So we'll see how that goes. Google and the DOJ both made their final arguments in Google's ad monopoly case. By the way, this is another source of big misunderstanding in our world. So when Google was found guilty of antitrust violations with search, and we started discussing, well, what are they going to do? Like, what could they do to fix this problem? There was a lot of ideas. And then finally, the DOJ came out and said, all right, here are our ideas. One of them was getting rid of, make them get rid of Chrome, right? And everyone's like, losing their minds. Let's make them really rein in their activities on Android. And if that doesn't work, we'll take away Android too. Everyone's freaking out, right? And you get these people who are like, oh, this is going to destroy the business, I'm like, well, maybe. Let's look at their revenues. And actually, as it turns out, if you figure like they're still going to own their ad business, no one has ever talked about taking away their ad business, right?
Right.
Well, I mean, they're going to compete now in a more open market, so they're not going to have 100% of it anymore. But what if they had like 50%, right? This is still a company that makes tens of billions of dollars a quarter.
Yes.
They're going to be fine, right? But now there's this ad monopoly case. It's like, see, now they're going to take away their ad business. And no, they're not. So if you look at the amount of money that Google makes from ads in a quarter, which is between 60 and 70% of all their revenues, there are many sources of that: YouTube, Google search, et cetera, et cetera. The thing that they're in court for is the smallest part of it. It's single-digit billions per quarter, and it's related to DoubleClick, right? And the ad auction business that they have. There's like 3 components to it. So if Google loses everything here and nothing else changes, their revenues will be reduced by, I don't know, 10% or 12% or something. I mean, this is not a core part of Google. Even though you hear Google ads, you're like, oh, they're screwed. Not really, So apparently the court they're in, or the judge that is seeing this case, is known for her quickness. I think they call her the Rocket Docket.
Rocket Docket, yeah.
Which is beautiful. I love that. I need a nickname like that. Except mine would be something horrible and profane. But anyway, so she's going to like rule on this by the end of the year, apparently, and will apparently, have hearings for remedies very early next year. And
don't worry, Jack Smith will dismiss all charges before he leaves office.
I don't think that's how government works, but we'll see.
No prejudice.
We'll see.
I feel like, of course, what's really unknown is what the next administration is going to do about Google, because half of it hates Google.
Yeah.
Half of it loves Google.
Well,
it's
I mean,
unclear.
So the biggest case is the search case. That one was launched by the Trump administration, DOJ. So the
but
Biden
Trump has
administration
also recently said, I love Google because China's scared of it.
Oh, so, I see. Yeah. It's almost like there's no common sense there or something. So I don't know. It's hard to say. You're right. I think that's the easiest way to say. Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah. And if and of course, Sundar Pichai, along with all the CEOs, is very actively, courting.
Oh my God, yes.
And really, and I think what will prevail is the same thing that prevailed for Apple when they proposed tariffs.
Is it ass kissing?
No.
Nice.
Well, it's a form. It's really saying, hey, you're hurting American companies. We're an American company. We're something America should be proud of. If you really focus on this is the source of American innovation. Right. Apple, this was in 2017 when they announced tariffs in China of 20%. And Apple persuaded the president to literally put in an exemption for smartphones by saying, hey, if you do that, you're just helping Samsung. And I think that's what will happen is they all will understand.
By the way, you'd also be helping Qualcomm, but fair enough. I mean, whatever.
Well, yeah, but I think that they really just need to hammer hard on American innovation, American companies. This is the shining light. The rest of the world wishes they had Google and Microsoft and Apple and Amazon.
Let me ask you a question. Does the rest of the world wish they had Intel?
No, you can have Intel. Please,
it's like I'm doing pretty good.
We'll trade with Taiwan.
I got this
for
weird
TSMC.
bump on my hip. I don't. Could you look at it? I think there's a hair growing out of it. I don't. It's weird.
Intel did get a chunk of change.
Yeah. So this is another example of this is a minor example of misinformation. A day or two before this happened, there was a Bloomberg report that said that their financing under CHIPS would be reduced because they weren't hitting milestones. And that's not what happened at all. Like their potential payout in the form of loans and grants was $8.5 billion. But in September, Intel was awarded $3 billion in grants and funding for a military-related chips program that's separate from this. So because of that, and because of congressional oversight of this, they actually had to reduce the amount that Intel would get through chips from 8.5 to 7.6 billion. It had nothing to do with Intel hitting or not hitting milestones.
Right.
So, I mean, honestly, in many ways, this is a best case scenario. They were going to get 8.5. Now they got 11.6 billion. So they're doing okay from the government. And so Intel is going to continue their, they pledged basically what amounts to $100 billion in investment in US-based chip making facilities in Ohio, Arizona, New Mexico, and I want to say one other place. Maybe that's it. The Ohio stuff is new. The New Mexico and Arizona stuff is refurbishing and upgrading and whatever existing facilities.
Yeah, I wonder why those states, if they got some tax incentive to the state as well.
They absolutely did. So their tax hit was reduced by like 25%, I think, at least in Ohio. I don't remember the exact numbers, but yeah.
Because you would have thought they would have stayed in Oregon. They've got all kinds of facilities in Oregon, but I imagine.
Oh, that is the other one. I'm sorry. The other one is Oregon. Yep. Sorry. I thought there was another one. It's Oregon. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, so good. And then I don't know if we ever talked about this, but TSMC also got I think it was $3 billion through the CHIPS program back in September for US-based fabrication.
And was that a facility in Texas they were working on?
I think it is, yeah.
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 Hey, we've come to appreciate that chips are a strategic asset as well, and a certain number of them should be produced domestically, and this is happening bit by bit. It just doesn't happen that quickly.
Was that a play on words, Richard? Bit by bit.
I'm a funny guy. Have you met me? Yeah.
All right, let me break here, and we will get to the Xbox segment.
Oh, it's all going to be good news. I
just a moment. You're watching. I see a little Dagwood Bumstead, little
look there,
punctuation. Cloud here.
Some of it's good.
Yeah. You're watching Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott, Richard Campbell, and we will continue in a moment. But first, a word from our sponsor, Flashpoint. Flashpoint. Governments have intelligence agencies to keep an eye on what's going on, to prepare for the next thing, right? But what about businesses? For security leaders, 2024 has been, talk about the next thing, a year like no other. Cyber threats, physical security concerns, they're continuing to increase. Now you've got geopolitical instability, adding a new layer of risk and uncertainty. What's going to happen in Taiwan? How's that going to impact the supply chain? I'll give you just, in one little area, some examples. Last year, 84% rise in ransomware attacks. That's almost double in 1 year. And a 34% jump in data breaches. And boy, if you're a security leader, the last thing you want to see is your company's name in the headlines next to the words data breach. And of course, it's not just that, it's also losses, trillions of dollars in financial losses. And of course, threats to employees and staff and team worldwide. That's where Flashpoint becomes your intelligence agency. Flashpoint empowers organizations to make the mission-critical decisions that will keep their people and assets safe. They do it by combining cutting-edge technology with the expertise of world-class analyst teams. They do it just like national intelligence agencies do it. And with Ignite, Flashpoint's award-winning threat intelligence platform, you get a dashboard with critical data, finished intelligence, you get alerts, you get analytics. It's all in one place. The kind of information you need to maximize your existing security investments. In fact, some Flashpoint customers avoid $500 million fraud losses annually and report a 482% ROI in just 6 months. Wow. Flashpoint earned Frost & Sullivan's 2024 Global Product Leadership Award for unrivaled threat, data, and intelligence. They're the leaders. They're the ones. A senior vice president of cyber operations at a large financial institution in the U.S., you would know the name, said, quote, Flashpoint saves us over $80 million in fraud losses every year. Their proactive approach and sharp insights are crucial in keeping our financial institutions secure. Flashpoint is not just a solution, they're a strategic partner helping us stay ahead of cyber threats. Don't you want this information? Don't you need this? It's no wonder Flashpoint is trusted not only by mission-critical businesses, but by governments worldwide. Not everybody can afford a big national intelligence agency, but you got Flashpoint. To access the industry's best threat data and intelligence, information you need to know now, visit flashpoint.io today. That's flashpoint.io. We thank them so much for supporting Windows Weekly. You support us by going to that site and by telling them, if they say, hey, where'd you hear about us? Say Windows Weekly. You know, on the Twit Network, Windows Weekly, they're great. Flashpoint.io, they're great. We're glad to have them as a sponsor. All right. You were so happy. You were so excited about Flight Sim 2024, Paul.
It's going great, Leo.
It's cool.
It's going great.
You thought this was going to be the next big thing.
Well, moving on.
Not to throw it back in your face or anything.
No, it's good. Flight Simulator 2024 is interesting to me because of this kind of hybrid design where a bunch of it is streaming from the cloud, and it's they're not doing like the world update download thing anymore. Like you're going to get high res models from the cloud allegedly. I will say, when reports started circulating last week that it wasn't going so well, like people were waiting forever to get into the game online, et cetera, I decided to install it on that computer. That's a laptop that runs, the AMD Zen 5 chip that runs, like Call of Duty wonderfully, et cetera, et cetera. It ran like crap. Honestly, it was pretty bad. I had to tune down the models and it didn't look good. So yeah, there are issues. Microsoft or Xbox or I guess Flight Simulator Inc. or whatever this company is, has acknowledged these obviously, and they're working to fix the issues. So they've released a big update, et cetera, et cetera. It's still better than Windows. I don't know, I guess you look at it in perspective. It's not like it's force installing like airports on you or anything. I don't know. It could be worse, I guess.
I like the old version where they had that bug in Melbourne that made like a 1,000-story building just sort of sticking.
Yeah. Right. Which was probably the inspiration for a scene in Star Wars.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Well.
So that's happening. I don't know. This one, I have to say, Microsoft integrating a miniature version of the Edge web browser into something with Xbox to me doesn't sound like I'm going to like this, but honestly, I think this is a good idea, which is that some big majority of PC gamers have a web browser open somewhere in a phone or whatever it is next to the game, or maybe on the computer itself where they switch right to figure out how to get forward in the game or whatever it is.
Yeah, read the cheats, the cheat website, that kind of thing.
So they're building a mini version of the web browser Edge into the game bar, which is part of Windows 11. When you hit the Xbox button on the controller, or Windows key plus G brings that thing up.
Yeah,
I use
this
this
to try and get more Edge utilization, right?
Yeah, of course. It will. This will be the version of Edge that opens when you click on a story in widgets now. No, I don't know, but I use the game bar a lot now because I'm measuring the frame rate of various games, and you can pin that thing to stay open. It's actually pretty useful for that purpose. But yeah, I mean, this is I read that and I'm like, yeah, no, this actually makes sense to me. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. Just does it have to be Edge or could it be
Of course it has to be Edge. Okay. I mean, I don't even know what you're talking about, man. I mean, what does anyone else use? Everyone uses Edge. It's such a weird question to ask.
Not even worth asking.
Actually, I wonder if Edge is going to become more. If Google's forced to sell Chrome.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's Chrome OS.
Yeah, no. The DOJ wants them to sell Chrome.
Well, I was talking about splitting Chrome off because it's such a revenue center, right?
But I wonder if at some point Edge might become kind of the best Chromium browser.
I think that's
there are people out there who would tell you that right now it already is, and those people, I'm telling you, have problems.
They work in Redmond.
Although,
what
by
is
the way,
best Chromium browser? I mean, Chrome probably, right?
I would say Brave, honestly, because it's stripped down so much, and they got rid of a bunch of the junk, and without replacing it with their own junk, right?
There is a de-Googled Chrome.
Yeah.
But I don't know how good that is.
I don't know.
That's really what Brave is.
Yeah,
I'm not.
I like Arc. It's your
Arc
fault.
is very good. I know.
Yeah.
So, the thing is, I do have 2 Google accounts, and Google account integration is pretty good. Like I don't mind that stuff. It's the tracking, privacy, something stuff. That I'm not a big fan of.
I kind of have given up, to be honest. It's like,
I think most of us have.
You want that information? Fine.
I sometimes feel like I just say this to say it, but I don't know. I try to avoid Chrome if I can, but I don't know.
We I kind of have to use Chrome for Restream, which is what we use for this show.
Oh, by the way, I'm using it right now for Restream because when I couldn't get it to work with Edge.
Yeah.
So, and it had worked before. I don't know what changed. But
honestly, it's kind of the thing is if you need full compatibility, you just have a copy of Chrome lying around because Chrome is fully Chrome.
I still have 4 or 5 browsers installed on every PC.
Oh, me too.
I mean, like
I keep thinking about Brave. I keep trying Brave. You really like it. I should give it a shot.
What I mean by I like it is it never gets in the way. There's never like a weird problem with it, and there's never extraneous nonsense.
And they were smart because they built in uBlock. They effectively uBlock Origin into the browser engine. So Manifest V2, V3, MoxNix doesn't.
I'm not saying they're the only browser, but I would say they're kind of the only mainstream browser if you include everything down through like Vivaldi Opera that actually passes all of the anti-tracking site tests without installing anything.
Yeah, Brave.
Like it actually just works. Like Brave, not Brave, Vivaldi, Opera, Firefox too. Curiously, you have to install extensions for those things to get up to that level, which is fine. It's not a big deal, but like Edge, Brave actually does that by default, and I have to say I kind of respect that.
The only reason that I've stuck on Arc, this is Arc.
I know.
Is because there's no widgets, no menu bar, nothing. So it's very clean, no Chrome. That's the term. And I love this little pop-up thing it does where this is a little pop-up on top of.
Yep. I know. And I wish.
And I love that. And then, of course, the sidebar is really effective for me. So,
yeah. No, you're right. It's good.
And the browser company says, well, Arc didn't really take off, so we're going to do something else. But I hope they keep it around a little bit.
It seems like they're going to, but Arc very decidedly turned into this power user tool that some percentage, whatever it was, of people saw that and were like, yes.
Right.
But most people were like, ooh, it's a little too
weird.
different.
Well, you were right. When I first tried it, I said, oh, that's too much to learn.
It's too much.
It's all new.
Right.
I don't
and then you got in.
But then you learn it and you're like, actually, and I think they made some good concessions, like on every browser except for that one, Control-T or Command-T is new tab. And they turned that into kind of the central UI for commands and things. And it's like, yeah, no, that's smart. Like people know that and they use it. And now you get to see their kind of new UI.
But the minute uBlock Origin doesn't work on it, I'm out of here. I need that. So I might go to Brave.
Yep.
Brave.
I do use Firefox. That was my go-to for 10 years, but it's
it's different for everybody. One of the things I have to do for work is like get an image off of a web article because it's a news story, and I often have to use the dev tools, and the dev tools in Edge and Chrome and Brave and probably Arc, but I don't remember, are all the same or enough the same that it's the same. It's basically the same process.
Right.
And then in Firefox, it's completely different. And I actually can't figure it out. And I'm like, I can't, it makes me like, so it's like a weird blocker. It's a very specific blocker, but like, I like Firefox. I like the whole vibe of it, obviously. But in using it, I'm like, oof, like it's a problem, it's like a day-to-day problem. So I don't know. I know that's not the reason, but it's like one of the things I can think of.
I'm sorry. This was an Xbox segment. I didn't want to distract.
Yeah. So there's a browser thing.
About a browser in
it. Yep. So let's see. So there, Microsoft used to have this thing called Mixer. Yeah. And I feel like on the list of trigger terms for Microsoft
was it Mixer
users,
or Mix?
No,
Mixer.
There was Mix. That was a conference, but Mixer was their Twitch competitor.
The service.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it would have been if it competed anyway.
Yeah, they hired Ninja to it, but I think it's like 10 million on bringing a 27-year-old over with purple hair.
Yep, I know. So now they don't have that, and they're integrating with third parties. Discord's Twitch is one, YouTube is one, and Discord is one. And so now they've added the ability to make direct voice calls with your friends on
Discord.
Xbox through Discord. I guess they're friends on Discord, like they would be, the people you have in Discord. So it's integrated into the Xbox UI. as it is, by the way, on the PlayStation 5, apparently, which I don't own, but I guess that's a thing. So that was kind of interesting. By the way, related to that, and apropos of nothing, Sony announced today that PlayStation 2, which I think everyone knows is not the new version of the console, right, was first released in, I think, the year 2000, and they stopped manufacturing it like 12 years later-ish, has sold 160 million units.
Wow.
Right? Now, why would you say that? Like, why mention that now? Like, what's the point? The point is that Nintendo is about to outsell its best-selling video game hardware, which is the DS, with the Switch, which has sold 146 million units, and it has to get to 154, which, based on their, predictions, will happen by the end of March, which is the end of the fiscal year. So Sony was like, that's cute. We sold 160. Like, I think they literally just did it as like a middle finger to Nintendo. Now, that said, I still think the Switch is going to come out on top because it will be around, for past. It's not like they're not.
Yeah, nobody's buying a PlayStation 2 now.
Well, and they don't, like, Nintendo doesn't have something to sell yet, something new. Right. So they'll keep selling this thing throughout the year, even if it sells in single digit millions in coming quarters. They'll get there. I don't think that was in the notes, right? But it was a kind of an interesting thing that just kind of happened today. There's an Xbox feature called the Avatar Editor, which is even more ridiculous than you think it is. Yeah, and I say that because I know none of you are using it because they're getting rid of it because no one uses it. Right. So this is a console-only feature. These are like Nintendo. We just mentioned the Switch. So when the Nintendo Wii was a thing, they came up with these little Mii characters, which were supposed to represent you in this ecosystem.
MII. Yes.
MII, right. So Microsoft came out with avatars for Xbox that were tied partially at first to Kinect, which were likewise these kind of Weeble-looking kind of cartoon characters. And then 10 seconds later, they stopped selling Kinect, and they still continue forward with avatars, but they're a little more, I don't know, modern-looking, I guess. But yeah, no one's doing that. So anyway, that's going away. So in January. And then I think we talked last week or the week before, Microsoft is apparently looking at Xbox portable gaming hardware. And Phil Spencer said something about this in an interview. He's like, look, it's years away, blah, 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 but we're looking at it. And then today or yesterday, there was a report from Bloomberg that actually Sony's looking at this too. And of course, Sony has a history of this. They had the PSP and then the Vita. And the Vita was the one that fixed the problem. They had the two thumbsticks, which enabled really elegant third-party shooter support like you would have on a console. And then, of course, they killed it because, we can't have anything nice. But apparently... I mean, they got it right. Like, they finally got it right. Because originally it only had the one side, and it was like, this is not quite it. But they did the two thumbsticks, and they got it right. So apparently they're looking at a way to bring PS5 games to a portable device somewhere. It's still years away, but it is something they're looking at. And this is kind of the thing I've been talking about with Xbox. Like, I think there should be a way to play. Like, I would have said, like, when Series X and S came out, like, make this thing an Xbox One X level of whatever hardware performance and allow it to play the games to that level, but on the go, to me, made a lot of sense. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I guess, I don't know, like in the game of console or the market for video game consoles, I guess they're looking at these PCs like the Steam Deck and whatever else that like they sell well enough. It's like, well, this is pretty good for us. Like if we had something that sold as well, this might be pretty good. Mm-hmm. So I think it makes sense. I would like to see something like this, but he says the last time I played a video game on a plane was probably 1997 or something. I don't know. It was a long time ago. Strictly PC, right? I don't want to play on a handheld. I can barely see the damn thing. I know. Yes, this is the big problem.
Yeah.
It's funny. I'm so spoiled with a 55-inch display.
Exactly.
I haven't written this up yet. I have a 31.5-inch all-in-one PC out there that I put Call of Duty on. Spectacular. The captioning is approximately this big. It's like really big on the screen. Like it's huge, super crisp. And I mentioned maybe this is an ESS computer. It's not. So I did check on that last ad break. It's actually not ESS, even though it has the built-in webcam, etc. So it's a
high standard.
It's a high standard. Yeah, maybe that's the way to put it. But that means that there must be or will be ESS compatible desktop hardware. I've never seen it. So
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. I mean, I mostly review laptops, but it's come slowly to laptops. I feel like that's the mass market. They're going to go there first, but
I think laptops always have a camera built in. Often have a fingerprint reader built in.
Oh, exactly.
They have affordances that ESS would like, or maybe even requires.
Yep.
Desktops don't always have a camera.
No, but that's why I thought maybe the all-in-one. And I said, you know, I can't honestly remember the last time I saw a non-ESS PC, but now I can. It was like 11 seconds ago. But as far as like a laptop, I mean, like I can't remember. It's been a long time.
But surely Microsoft doesn't intend it for laptops only. They surely intend it for desktops too.
Yep, I would think so.
You would hope.
One would hope.
All
right, that's the Xbox segment. I hope you enjoyed it. You won't get another one for a week, so enjoy.
Sorry. I might have prestiged by then. You can say.
How are you doing?
I've had so many PCs to test. I've been forced to play Call of Duty.
There's only one way to test them.
There is only one way to test. Well, there's many ways, but I'm using one way, and it's going pretty good.
You know what I find? Whenever the outside world becomes difficult, I retreat sometimes into my video game. And Valheim is a good one because it's really my own little world. I'm just a Viking. I'm building a house. I'm growing crops. I'm fighting off bad guys. And it's just me. And it's quiet. It's peaceful. It's satisfying. If I want, I could just sit in my throne and enjoy this, smell the roses. And I find I do that more now. Like it's become kind of a refuge. So I'm wondering if Call of Duty is not exactly peaceful kingdom, but I'm wondering if that's a refuge.
It depends on what makes you happy. Like, you know, if like headshots or what make you happy, Call of Duty is ideal. It's very calming. You know,
I don't find that calming.
What do
I think
you
the
call
problem with Call of Duty, Call of Duty has that kind of addictive element.
By the way,
which
when I'm talking throne, I'm talking an actual throne, like a king.
Yeah.
There are no toilets in Valheim. Okay, it's another thing I like about it.
Yes.
Lack of toilets,
the lack of gastrointestinal problems.
You eat a lot. There's a lot of eating.
Oh yeah,
and I mean, I make big feasts now. It's wonderful, but. Yeah,
I was sure he was going to say feasts. That's what he was going to say.
Feasts. Yeah. We're going to take a break, and then the back of the book is coming up. Tip, app, and brown liquor pick.
Mm-hmm.
Which is this a brown liquor? This sounds like
is.
Okay.
It looks like a Vino Verde or something.
It looks like just a random set of characters thrown together.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I've never seen 17 consonants in a row in a name. But
we will find out the game is afoot, or at least the whiskey is in just a bit as the back of the book approaches. I want to take this moment, though, to invite you to join our club. We talk about Club Twit a lot because we love our Club Twitters. In this case, Club Twit makes it possible for us to do not only this show, but Paul Thurrott's Hands on Windows. We do make the audio of that available to the public, as we do with Hands on Macintosh and other shows, but the video is available only to the club. It's really a club because there's no advertising in it. It's a club-supported show. I personally, from day one of Twit, 20 years ago, wanted to do a listener-supported network. Turns out we couldn't grow at the rate we ended up wanting to grow and growing at with a number of shows we're doing purely by listener support. So we started doing advertising, and that's been fine. But I would really still think the ideal would be listener supported. And the interesting thing is, it doesn't mean 100%. It doesn't mean we'd have to have a paywall. We don't. Most of the stuff, almost everything we do is in public in some form or fashion. Even when we do the club things like Stacy's Book Club, which is coming up in a couple of weeks, we do a live stream of that everybody can watch. In fact, thanks to the club members, we did it on YouTube, Twitch, Kick, X.com, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, and in our Club Twit Discord. So we stream it 8 different ways, and everybody's invited to watch. But after we stream it, we put it into the Twit Plus feed, which is available only to club members. But we only do that for a month. Again, I don't want to wall off our content. But I would love the idea of having it be listener supported. The thing is, it doesn't have to be 100% support. It doesn't even have to be 50% support. Right now, somewhere it's hovering between 1 and 2% of our audience is a club member. If we could get that to 5%, it would turn everything around. We wouldn't need ads. We could grow. We could add shows. We could do so much more just with 5%. If only 1 in 20 of you subscribes, maybe that one is you. $7 a month. We could try to keep it affordable. That's less than most podcast networks charge. It's really not much more than individual single podcast charge, but you get a whole lot more. You get ad-free versions of all the shows. You get access to the Discord, which has thousands of really smart, interesting, social people in there. We're hanging out. It's become my social network. I love it in there. In fact, December 1st, the Advent of Code Coding Challenge starts, and we have a very active Advent of Code group in there. And it's so much fun. Probably will stream some of that. Anyway, the club is a great place, and it makes a big difference in what we do. It gives us an opportunity to kind of live my dream, which is we only owe allegiance to our listeners. That's it. We don't have to gin up interest by, creating drama. We just give you the information you need. And if you think that's worthwhile, if you think it's valuable, if you love this show, if you love our other shows, please twit.tv/clubtwit. There's a 2-week free trial if you just want to get an idea of what it would be like. There's also a referral code now. Everybody who joins gets a referral code they can use anywhere. And every time somebody joins with that referral code, you get a free month. We're trying to make this fun. We're trying to make it affordable. We're trying to make it. And you can help us do it. twit.tv/clubtwit. That's all I'll say. And by the way, if you're a member, no ads. You don't even see this. You might see it live because we have, otherwise I just have to do like Google does and play a moment of Zen. So live, you're going to get the ads. But if you don't want the ads, you can just get the downloads and they'll have no ads, not even this pitch. twit.tv/clubtwit. Thank you. We really appreciate your support. Now, back to Windows Weekly. Whoops. It's Paul's turn.
By the way, as you were speaking, news came out that the U.S. Federal Trade Commission has opened an antitrust investigation of Microsoft.
What?
It sounds
for
like
cloud computing and software licensing
on it too.
Cybersecurity.
Oh, I'm actually shocked. It's like we've seen this before.
I thought they were the kinder, gentler tech giant.
They used to be.
Do you feel like they're trying to do everything they can before January 20th? It's like, let's just get this all in the hopper. And
this is like if you're a fan of football is this kind of whatever type of game it is. And then if it's a close game and there's like 2 minutes left, it turns into a completely different game.
It's a different game.
And, and that's what this is. Like politically, it's like, I guess we got to move, let's go. Stuff's happening. Well, that's fun.
Actually, it's funny how many games this football season have been resolved in the last few plays. I don't
know if anyone watched the Cowboys Commanders game. The last 5 minutes of that. Oh my God. Like that might have been one of the best 5 minutes of football that's ever been played.
Was that
you go watch
where the guy missed the extra point?
Oh my God. And then were there 2 more scores after that? Like
wild.
I think when that happened, there were like less than 10 seconds. No, I think it was one more score. There was less than 10 seconds left, and the Cowboys ran back the kickoff for another score. Yeah. Like it was unbelievable. I think in the last 5 minutes there were like 30 points scored or something like that. It's crazy. Definitely.
I watched that, then I switched from that to the end of another game where the same thing happened. It was all like last minute. And then, of course, the 49ers managed to lose in the last few seconds of every game. So
sorry. Yeah. Well, yes. Sorry. Well, listen, you got to be true to yourself.
Tip of the week time.
So I don't have much of a tip this time because I already kind of talked about this, but thanks to the era of misinformation we live in now, and I think we all succumb a little too easily to the "it sounds right" kind of argument. The Microsoft is secretly rolling out recall to all these computers. And then, Chris Titus gets like 1.2 billion views or whatever it is. And it's like, no, you're stupid. That's not happening. Or, this thing this week with Microsoft is training AI on your data and the outrage, the instant outrage. Meanwhile, I'm like, Microsoft is enabling folder backup in OneDrive 15 months ago, and people are like, Paul, I think you're making this up. I'm like, okay, I don't know what to tell you anymore. Like, people don't get riled up about the right things, and then they get, crazy about the wrong things. So unfortunately, I can't solve the problem, but we need to think a little more critically here. Just clearly, critically. I don't know what I'm looking for.
Well, and I want to pledge. I agree 100% with you, and I want to re-pledge our commitment to spreading light, not heat.
Yeah, I like that's a good phrase. Yeah,
because we're on YouTube, we're on all those platforms, but we don't make our money from that. That's why I really want to make our money from the audience, because I don't want to have to chase links, chase numbers. I just want to give you the best information, the most accurate information I can, without drumming up drama.
Right. Look, I mean, there's drama to be had. We don't have to invent it.
Yeah, we don't have to make it up. There's plenty of drama, but
I don't know.
I'm just saying light, not heat. That's kind of
the way Mark Manassi used to say this in his own sort of egotistical format was, I use my superpowers for good, and there you go. I mean, so anyway, we gotta start looking out for each other now. So, I mean, honestly, we always should have been doing
YouTube,
that.
I really do. This YouTube influencer thing has just really destroyed
people who know nothing about nothing, accepting money from companies, are now influencing people to buy products or make decisions. And it's like, guys, come on. This is like, it was bad enough when it was celebrities. It's like, Cher, what do you think about the election? Who cares? At least that's someone I've heard of. It's like, Cindy, you're wearing pom-poms. What do you think about the election? It's like, who cares? Like, come on, stop.
It's like, so a little too far, hasn't it?
It's too much. I don't know what happened to us, but we've lost it as a race. I don't know.
I have been encouraging folks to read as raw news as possible. Reuters, Associated Press. The only thing you'll notice is that there's so little opinion in that you actually have to think about what you read.
Oh my God.
And by the way, there you go. That's a skill we should all be developing right now.
What does this mean? Why don't they tell me what it means?
Yeah, exactly. Right. They don't.
But should I be outraged? Where's that paragraph?
Yeah,
because I want to be outraged.
Part. It's funny. The other thing I found with when reading news from there, short. Yeah. It's really short when you don't have to decorate it.
Doesn't take a lot of time, does it?
Yeah, each piece is like a minute or two.
Yep.
Wow, that's an interesting observation.
Yeah.
You can be concise. You can be clear.
Yeah.
Well, Reuters has started doing YouTube clips now that are a minute or two. That's just basically reading the story with a couple of camera shots. And again, just no opinion in it. So you really have to say, what does this mean?
Yeah. Right. I can't write without having
news
opinion
as raw
in
as possible.
So,
as Alec Baldwin said, Americans are very uninformed about reality.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, he's right. He's not wrong, right? I mean, he's not wrong.
He's not wrong.
What a weird place to be in, where Alec Baldwin is right about anything. But here we are.
There's the irony.
But he's not wrong.
We're listening to Alec now. How about your app pick of the week? I need a new browser. What do you got?
Well, you were always asking for new browsers. We got two. There's a new version of Firefox out this week, 133. Those guys, they're on a faster release schedule than anyone, by the way, every 4 weeks. Opera GX, which is a browser I don't quite understand, but we talked about this notion of a web browser built into Game Bar.
Yeah.
Opera GX is specifically aimed at gamers, right? And so Opera itself is this browser that is like infinitely, or I thought it was, personalizable. This thing is even more so. It's kind of crazy, but they tailor it specifically for gamers. So it does all these. It's like special, like dark mode and lots of reds and greens and like kind of a different.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's kind of interesting, but they're really buying into this, and they have like
look at the posture of this kid, by the way. And can I say, why is he wearing Crocs? Okay, I'm sorry. You sound like the old man shouting at the class.
I don't mind him wearing Crocs. What I mind is when I see a guy from America wearing those Crocs in Roma Norte walking down the street with his MacBook. I want to beat him to death with those Crocs. Like that is just, you're not on a beach, right?
Is this what teenagers look like now?
No, I don't think so. But this is how they think teenagers look like. I don't know.
This is maybe how, where's Opera? Norway, right? This is how Norwegian teenagers better looking.
Right.
That's what it is.
Right. We're still doing the Crocs thing. Huh? Yeah. So I don't know.
Only in Norway.
Yep. Yep.
All right.
So
I'll
if you're
try
looking at
Opera GX,
thin,
but is it
light,
only
fast-
for gamers?
No, I mean anyone could use it, obviously, but it's designed to be used along. You're playing games and you got this thing, and it kind of can be customized to be like visually simpatico with whatever else you're doing. You'll see when you install it. It's not your father's Oldsmobile, I guess is the way to say it.
Oh, here's another teenager wearing Crocs. Man, this is they must have done some research. By the way, kids, posture, sit up. Pull your pants up.
He's got it, because otherwise, I mean, his screen is angled perfectly for where his head's going to be.
The screen is angled.
In some ways, that is good posture. If you ignore the fact you have a back.
Yeah, trust me, you're gonna know you have a back when you get to my age.
He doesn't know he has a back for another 30 years.
Yeah, but then he'll look at that image and say,
"What was I thinking?
What was I?
I hurt my back getting out of bed. Like I don't even.
We really sound like a bunch of old timers, don't we? Oh, you kids, watch out! Your knees.
I always do that. I'll do
this
this with my friends. Somebody like, "Oh my god, my back's killing me." Like, you do something heroic, and they're like, "No, I just rolled over wrong."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Opera GX for people who wear Crocs and sit.
That's the target audience.
That's the target audience. Richard Campbell, what's coming up on Run His Radio?
Published today, my talk with Mandy Walls, who works for PagerDuty, about incident response, and it really ended up being more of a focus on what it's like to deal with incidents when you operate a SaaS infrastructure. So, first is scope, like. You have a lot of customers here. Are they all being impacted? Is it only a particular customer? That was a huge issue. You can't just go around kicking servers to try and get things up and running again. You got to kind of scope in the problem and then deal with the issues. And obviously, it was the class of issue like corrupted data or update failures, like all of these kinds of things. And a good second half that was just a conversation about the postmortem, about getting away from accusation, really understanding what happened. The sort of no-fault model, and then building good strategies for no recurrence.
Yeah.
Like, how do we auto recover from that? How can, if it doesn't lead to a fix in software, maybe you haven't taken it seriously. Usually we should be able to track from the incident to the work items on the stack. So that's what, real retrospective shows. It reflects into code. So that was the conversation, and a great one. We did it in person at NDC Porto a few weeks ago. It was very enjoyable.
Speaking of Porto, I'm guessing that this comes from Porto.
It does not.
But it says it's vinho.
I know. That's the one. That's what I'm stuck on too.
Yeah,
isn't it Portuguese? What is it?
No, it's weirder than that. So I have
good.
I have friends. I don't know. You know this, but I do have friends, and these friends bring me things. And so while I was in Lithuania, my friends Ben and Heather had brought me a little sample of this whiskey. They put it the way they got it, because they're very much travel, warriors. So carry on only. So how do you bring me a sample of whiskey carry on only? They put it in a little 2-ounce bottle and carried it in their toiletry bag. Right. So I was able to have a decent
You only
shot
got
at this.
2 ounces.
So I got 2 ounces, enough to taste it, very reasonable. But this is the Kavalan Vino Barrique, which is from Taiwan.
Taiwan.
What? Taiwan.
That is not what I would have thought looking at the name. I would have thought maybe Finnish from Kavalan.
No.
Maybe
I would have sworn, even if you go to the
Barrique.
website, that island looks like it's off the north of Scotland. Or something,
Yeah.
right.
Well, it's supposed to, probably.
And so, now for our little geopolitical lesson. So Taiwan is about a 36,000 square kilometer island. It's about 14,000 miles in the measures of the oppressors. Mountain ranges on the east coast, plains in the west coast. It's about 160 kilometers from mainland China across the Taiwan Strait, Japan to the northeast, Philippines to the south. The South is China Seas to the south, the East China Seas to the north, because directions are complicated, because the Philippine Sea is to the east. And of course, it's a subtropical environment, although the southernmost parts of Taiwan are considered fully tropical. So that's hot summers, monsoons, very mild winters. Not a normal thing you'd think of for growing whiskey, although there's been people on this island and the islands around it, literally for millennia. The first evidence of human occupation of that land goes back 20, 30,000 years. There's clear evidence of agriculture starting around 3000 BC in an abruptly emergent culture that probably walked across a land bridge. The interaction with the mainland, with the Chinese mainland, starts in the Yuan dynasty, which is about 1300 AD. Of course, then the Europeans arrived. The Portuguese named the island Formosa when they discovered it in the 1600s. And then it was both a Dutch and a Spanish colony. They fought over it for about 20 or so years until a local, someone named Zhang Shengdong in 1662, successfully defeated the Dutch and made it his base of operations while he was fighting a rebellion against the Qing dynasty. Which he lost in 1683, and then the Qing dynasty ruled that island for a couple of hundred years as part of the dynasty. Not until the Sino-Japanese War of 1895 does things change when Taiwan actually becomes part of Japan until the end of World War II. So about 50 or so years at the end of World War II, when Japan's in full retreat, the Republic of China takes control of the island, which is good because within a few years towards the end of the Chinese Civil War, Li Ka-shek and the rest of the ROC will retreat in 1949 onto the island, and the communists cement their victory that becomes China. But ROC remains on Taiwan and rules as the only for about 40 years until democratic reforms in the 1980s. Whereupon they become what is known as the Taiwan Miracle, or one of the four Asian tigers, along with South Korea and Hong Kong and Singapore, that becomes a rapidly industrialized nation, sort of a demonstration model for how you can abruptly convert an economy. Today, there's about 24 million people living on the island. And it's where TSMC is and many other interesting and important things. However, when it comes to alcohol, until 2002, Taiwan had a completely state-controlled corporation called the Taiwan Tobacco and Liquor Corporation that dealt with anything to go with tobacco and liquor. They made their own beer, although it was largely based on the German-American style, and also made what would be appropriate local liquor like shoju and the like. There is a domestic liquor that is really derived from a Chinese style called Chao Lang, which is made from fermented sorghum, more potent than shoju. It's called Chinese white wine in direct translations. There are versions that are in the 50-60% range. There's an Everclear variant that's like 92% alcohol, good for stripping engine parts. But after 2002, when Taiwan joins the World Trade Organization, they end their monopoly and allow more imports as well as local production of alcohol. And very quickly, Taiwan became a huge fan of whiskey. In 2021, they imported 22 million liters of whiskey, of which 90% of that came from Scotland. So like Japan, they had a really strong interest in Scottish whiskey. And the Scots were enthusiastic too, because the way that Taiwan taxes spirits is by alcohol content and volume, not by the retail price of it. So not only was whiskey relatively low taxed, but expensive whiskey was very low taxed. And so high-end whiskey is very, very common in Taiwan. They do have excess drinking culture, very much a binge drinking culture, although in recent years there's been a big pushback against that.
Kind of like Japan, huh?
Yeah, the same, and Korea as well. Like it is sort of a known issue that is now sort of transforming. So very quickly after the WTO connection, a conglomerate called King Car, which is built by it's a family business. The founder is Tian-Sha Li, and this King Car literally translates to like drive wealth. They make beer, they make hygiene products, Mr. Brown Coffee. They have an aquaculture conglomerate.
Mr. Brown Coffee?
Mr. Brown Coffee.
It comes in a can in a vending machine, right?
Something like that. It's free. It's freeze dried coffee, and
Free of charge.
Freeze dried.
Oh, freeze dried. Okay, yeah.
And so Lee is a big fan of whiskey, so he wanted a whiskey operation. And by 2005, he started Mr. Brown Coffee. He started on building a distillery they called Cavalan. Cavalan, the name comes from the local indigenous people of the region that they built the distillery in. So it's got a tie-in with the native people. The area is called Yilan, which is up in the high northeast corner of Taiwan. Would arguably be the coolest part, although they're up against the hills there because very good high quality water supply. And as the distillery was built very quickly, they went totally Scottish. So Forsyths of Scotland supplied 4 distills, sent a pair of 7,000 liter spirit stills, a pair of 12,000 liter wash stills. And they hired as an advisor a fellow by the name of Jim Swan, who I should almost do a sole separate show about. Dr. Jim Swan, who's passed now, known as the Einstein of whiskey. Worked with dozens of distilleries. The ones you probably heard of would be like Clyde Scythe in Glasgow, Kilchoman on the Isla, Amrut in India, which is on my radar. I do have a bottle of it. At some point, we'll do a show on him. He's published, he's literally a PhD in whiskey making and has published a bunch of papers on that. And one of his specialties was how to make good quality whiskey in hot climates. And so he spent 10 years working with Cavalan. And his focus was specifically on what they called wood policy, or what kind of wood would work well in the conditions that Taiwan offers. And his focus was on you should be using American oak rather than European oak, as European oak tends to be more bitter in those kinds of temperatures. But he also developed a methodology for utilizing barrels called the STR cask treatment. STR short for shaved, toasted, and recharred.
Oh man, I do that every morning.
There you go.
Otherwise known as Mr. Brown, of course.
Saturday night at my place. This really came about in the early 2010s when whiskey was taking off and there was a big shortage of barrels. And so he sort of showed that you can take existing barrels, including wine casks, and shave them down, take the interior surface off, toast and char them, and utilize them again. So better utilization of barrels. And Cavalan took this to heart and makes a large array of different kinds of whiskey. Now, this place has been in operation for less than 20 years, but by 2016, they were doing so well, they built a second distillery and added 16 more stills. So they're now up to 20 stills, although all identical, all the same style of wash and spirit stills from Forsyths. So they produce 9 million liters of alcohol a year. Their barley comes from Scotland and Finland because it's not a good growing conditions for barley on Taiwan. They have 16 stainless tanks for fermentation, and their storage facility is a pair of 5-story warehouses that are built into the hills and try to keep as cool as possible. Because of the frequency of earthquakes in Taiwan, they're very careful with how they strap their barrels. So they tend to take 4 barrels and strap them together and mount them onto the rack so they can take some shaking without a lot of trouble. But they do have high temperatures to deal with through the summer. And so their angel share, which is, in a place like Scotland, between 1% and 2% per year.
I bet with the heat.
15%.
Wow.
So they don't do a lot. They haven't had time to do long aging, but also long aging just doesn't serve them particularly well. And it means their whiskeys come across with strong flavors in a short amount of time. But their relationship with Dr. Swan also opened them, get them access to a lot of different barrels. So they do a lot of unique barreling. So almost all of their whiskeys are initially aged in American oak, both virgin and used bourbon casks. Very Scottish approach to it. And then they'll do different kinds of finishing barrels. So you will see some ports and some sherries and some wine finishes. And that's what we're talking about here. The Vino Barrique is actually a barrique is a kind of cask that stores wine. But in this case, the Vino Barriques have been STR'd. They've been shaved and toasted and recharred for doing aging. The expectation of this particular whiskey, the one we're talking about, the Vino Barrique, is about 5 years old. Again, no age statements on any of Cavalan's whiskeys. This, I only had 2 ounces of it. Boy, it was good. Got it. Big, strong fruit notes.
You wouldn't
vanilla,
expect that,
oak.
to be honest. With
No,
what you just
and this is one
described.
of the reasons that Heather and Ben brought it to me. It's like they were in Taiwan. This is the biggest distillery in Taiwan. So they figured they'd try it out. They tried a lot of different ones, and then they were pinging me saying, "Yeah, we're bringing you some of this."
That's
this
really
stuff's
interesting. Yeah.
The one I had was 54.8%. So basically a cask strength, a lot of clout to it. And it is available in Canada. I can get it. The bottle is $315 Canadian, which is about $225 US if you can find it.
Wow.
Relatively hard find. There's only a couple more distilleries in Taiwan so far, but this is the big one. And they've won a bunch of awards, including this whiskey itself has won World Whiskey Awards. They've won Best Distillery Awards. Like, they're doing good things, but they're plugged into some of the best, which there's a reason for why they've been as successful as they've been.
It's very cool.
Yeah, it was a fun tour for me, and it's the same way my friend Glenn brought me the sledgehammer, the Howlettson from last week. There's a little bit left. It's only a 500 ml bottle.
You got good friends. I
do have good friends, and they're starting to enjoy the fact that I'm doing all these nutty things with whiskey. So there've been more being brought to me all the time. So I have some fun with it. Anyway, I thought a Taiwanese whiskey would be fun, and it was delicious, really extraordinary.
Solist Vino Barrique.
That's it.
Single cast strength, and it has been shaved, toasted,
and recharred. That's it. That's what they did.
And also
to
shaken, apparently, thanks to all the earthquakes. So
yes.
Thanks to Mr. Brown. Wow. We have gone all around the world on this episode, and now we're right back where we started. It's kind of a major miracle, but I'm so glad you guys were here to do it. Paul Thurrott is at thurrott.com. That's where his blog is. Become a premium member to get access to everything, including the field guide to Windows 11. Or you can go to leanpub.com and buy yourself a copy there. It includes Windows 10, by the way, inside. It's like the soft, chewy layer inside the gum.
It's the nougat.
It's the nougat.
Of the offering.
The Tootsie and the Tootsie Roll and the Tootsie Pup. Yeah. He also wrote a book called Windows Everywhere, which is a really interesting kind of, it's a unique look at the history of Windows through its development frameworks. It's really a great idea. I think a great book. Paul, always a pleasure. I'm glad you're here. I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Thank you, sir. You too. What are you doing? How are you doing this?
Well, we got invitations from 4 different family groups.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
At which point Lisa and I said, let's go out to eat.
Really? Wow.
I didn't want to have to choose one. We're going to go visit a couple and so forth. But I couldn't just choose one. I might have underestimated. It might even be a larger number. So there's a lovely hotel in Sonoma that's a wonderful resort, and they do an incredible Thanksgiving.
Oh, neat.
We've been there before pre-COVID, and we thought, let's go there. It'll be fun. We'll have a nice. Cool. They have a caviar bar and a prime rib station, as well as a turkey station and cheese.
There you go.
So good.
Richard, did you meet? I can't remember if you met Don. So I have a friend who makes his own alcohol, including some pretty good whiskey. So
always whiskey.
He does a 5-year whiskey. So we're opening a 5-year barrel on Friday. Actually,
okay.
His last one, the 2020
you do the whiskey
was,
bit next week. Then
it was very, very good. Well, this one's super exclusive. You can't get it. I mean,
unless you have a friend.
Yeah.
Both kids made it home. So
they're both here now.
Yay.
My, we don't have a house, so we go to my sister's now, but my sisters, both of them have demanded that my wife do all the cooking because she does it right. So
I have American cousin up. This is one of my wife's cousins.
Oh, so you're getting a second Thanksgiving?
Yeah, so we're getting a little extra Thanksgiving.
Oh, nice. Because Richard, as you know, as a Canadian,
we do it in October, like civilized people.
I think I'm going to bring Thanksgiving to Mexico. That's going to be my claim to fame. I think the Mexicans will embrace this holiday for its food and family thing, and I think they would love it.
Mexicans
plus the whole repression of the natives thing. They love that stuff. So it's going to be fun.
It all works together, really.
Yeah, it's just kind of, it's the holy trinity of holiday, really.
Richard Campbell is at Run As Radio. That's his website, runasradio.com. He also does .NET Rocks. You can get both at his website. He comes to us from Madeira Park, British Columbia. It's wonderful to have him home. We do Windows Weekly every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1900 UTC. You can watch, as I mentioned, live on 8 different platforms, all the major video streaming platforms. We'd be on Mixer if we could, but we can't. But that's another story for another day. But we are everywhere else. Watch us live at the recording time, or better yet, watch us at your convenience. You can get copies of the show, either audio or video, or both, at twit.tv/WW. If you go there, there's a link to the YouTube channel. That's great for sharing clips. If you have somebody who you think would like this Cavalan whiskey, you just clip it out. That's nice for 2 reasons. One, it's an easy way everybody can see a YouTube clip. So it's an easy way to share something. And YouTube makes it very easy to say, start here and here. But also, it's a great way to share Windows Weekly and tell people about the show, because we really appreciate that. So that's another way to watch. But the best thing to do is subscribe in your favorite podcast client. You'll get it automatically as soon as we're done. And you won't ever have to wonder, hey, what should I listen to next? Listen to Windows.
Which of my data should be trained by AI? All of your data.
Paul, Richard, have a wonderful week. Paul, have a great Thanksgiving. We'll be back together in December for the next Windows Weekly. It'll be 1 after 9:09.
There you go.
Yep. Take care.
You too.